to be considering three very important pieces of legislation which in many senses has been around for a long time. The three bills that we will be considering are the Paycheck Fairness Act, which requires equal pay for equal work. As I think many people know, women in America make substantially less than men for doing the same work, and that's something that has been discussed for years and something that we intend to address today. The Healthy Families Act is the second bill that we will be dealing with, and that guarantees up to 7 paid sick days for every worker in America. As I think, again, many members know, the United States of America, the wealthiest country on earth, is the only major nation not to guarantee workers any paid sick days. So you have millions of workers who, when their kids get sick, their spouses get sick, cannot get guaranteed time off from work. And that, to me, is an outrage, and that's a bill we will be dealing with today. And the third bill that we will be dealing with is the Protecting the Right to Organize Act, the PRO Act. Workers in America have the constitutional right to assemble and form a union. We have that right, but the truth is, over the last many decades, corporate interests have done everything that they can to make it impossible for workers to exercise that right. And we will be dealing with that issue as well today. All of these issues come within the context of a nation today in which the gap between the people on top and everybody else is growing wider. We have more income and wealth inequality than we have ever had, more corporate concentration of ownership than we have ever had. And in the midst of all that, 60% of our people are living paycheck to paycheck, millions struggling to pay the rent, put food on the table. The three bills that we are going to be working on today have the strong support of dozens and dozens and dozens of national organizations. Let me just read a few. These three bills are supported by the AFL-CIO, by AFG, by the American Federation of Teachers, the American Postal Workers Union, the CWA, the Economic Policy Institute, the Feminist Majority Foundation, Jobs with Justice, the NAACP, the National Education Association, the National Network to End Domestic Violence, National Urban League, Oxfam America, SEIU, and many, many, many others. So these are not radical ideas. They've been around for a long time. Poll after poll shows these ideas are what the American people want to see happen, and I look forward to getting them passed today. Senator Cassidy.
Thank you, Chair Sanders. I'm about to speak as a ranking member, of course representing Republicans, but also trying to represent the kind of concern regarding committee process, and my responsibility as a ranking member to make sure that it's completed. With that said, for almost a decade and a half, this committee has worked past partisanship to produce meaningful legislation. And we, on both sides, have set apart 20% of where we disagreed to focus on the 80% where we agreed. But this means that for every markup, there is an agreement between the chair and ranking member for that which is considered. And nobody got everything they wanted all the time, but we got key legislative victories, and in so doing, the Help Committee made lasting change. I will point out, this markup is different. This is the committee's first partisan markup since the Affordable Care Act in 2009. And abandoning a bipartisan approach, which has defined our committee and has made it so productive at addressing issues facing our fellow Americans, means that this legislation will not pass. And I'm saying that with no sense of victory. I'm just saying that it takes 60 votes to pass in the Senate. And whatever we produce will not get those 60 votes. And why? Because this is a deeply controversial and partisan set of bills that, again, will never be signed into law. Now, I'm the ranking member. We are all supposed to be concerned about the committee fulfilling its responsibilities. But we have 2 legislative days left before the July recess, and we don't have agreements in principle, nor agreements on key issues, are draft texts for many important bipartisan programs that can matter a heck of a lot to both the Democrat and Republican members of this committee, and these programs are expiring in September. For example, we don't have an agreement on text for the Pandemic and All Hazards Preparedness Act reauthorization, which supports our nation's response to global pandemics. Negotiations are being held up because of drug policy demands that are completely outside the purview of PAPA. We don't have an agreed-upon process for addressing the Support Act, which addresses our nation's opioid crisis. We don't have text or even basic agreement on funding levels for the reauthorization of community health centers or the National Health Center Service Corps to help troubling shortages in our nation's healthcare workforce. The chair had announced to Politico a few weeks ago that he's requesting roughly $131 billion for community health centers over 5 years. Current funding is $20 billion over 5. We don't have offsets. CBO has not scored this. If we're going to find offsets, we should have been working on this since January. But that said, all the staff time that has gone into this partisan markup is not being used for that. And the likelihood of successfully vetting and operationalizing policies to justify or pay for an over 5 times increase in funding, in addition to finding agreements on other reauthorizations that I mentioned, in the 16 days between now and what should be our deadline, which is the beginning of August recess, is, shall I say, slim. Instead, we're having a partisan hearing on labor bills, which will never be signed into law. Now, it's the majority's right to hold partisan hearings and markups that have a 0 chance of advancing beyond the markup. That's their prerogative, but it should not be at the expense of the bipartisan work that we're responsible to complete. By the way, there's other bipartisan things we could be working on. Expanding Pell Grants for short-term programs of at least 8 weeks. Reauthorizing the Workforce Investment and Opportunity Act to modernize and improve federal workforce programs. Fulfilling our constitutional duty to advise and consent President Biden on his nominations to fill vacancies at agencies like the NIH. Now, I hate to be disagreeable. I am so willing to work with the chair or anyone in the majority on programs, on policies, on laws that can get 60 votes in the Senate, to have a signing ceremony once the law is passed. But these bills are not they. One piece of legislation under consideration today is the Protecting the Right to Organize, or the PRO Act. It's not pro-worker, it's just pro-big union. And being pro-worker means defending the rights of all workers, including those who don't want to join a union. This PRO Act eliminates secret ballot elections, which is the gold standard to keep somebody from being put into a corner and intimidated until they vote the way the intimidator wishes them to vote. Secret ballot elections for unionization also protects workers from retaliation if they choose a different way. The PRO Act eliminates right to work in my home state and 25 other states, forcing workers, even if they don't want to unionize. By the way, if somebody wants to unionize, more power to them. I support their right to choose what's best for their career. But if the benefits of being in a union are so self-evident, there's no reason that workers have to be coerced and strong-armed to join. And they don't need the government to help coerce and strong-arm them. I will say this legislation is part of a disturbing trend by President Biden and congressional Democrats to erode a worker's individual rights. That is why I and the other Republican members of this committee introduced the Employees' Rights Act with our colleagues, Senators Tim Scott, Mitch McConnell, and John Thune. The Employer Rights Act upholds the rights of workers to choose what's best for their career, whether to join a union or not. It also protects the right to secret ballot elections, among other things. I join all colleagues to join in supporting this common sense legislation, protecting the rights of all Americans. This legislation is truly pro-worker. I repeat, the bills being offered today have no chance of becoming law. We have decided, this committee, the chair, has decided to prioritize the 20% of things we disagree on over the 80% of things where we do agree. We have real responsibilities that Americans are depending upon us to complete, and this committee should rise to this occasion. In closing, I'll say I'm sorry that my remarks are so disagreeable, but we got 16 legislative days left before the August recess. We reasonably have to complete these authorizations by then for them to be included in an end-of-the-year fiscal package, and we've not agreed upon basic frameworks and funding amounts. My hope is that the time lost preparing for this markup will be compensated for by greater productivity in the next 16 legislative days. I yield, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator Cassidy. We'll now begin consideration of the legislation before us, and we're going to begin with the Paycheck Fairness Act that has been introduced by Senator Murray, and I would yield my time to Senator Murray.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. You know, women across the country have been shortchanged far too much for far too long. It has been incredibly frustrating that 14 years after the Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Act and over 50 years after the Equal Pay Act, women are still being paid less than men, and employers are still able to brush off reports of discrimination with flimsy excuses like, well, he was a better negotiator, or he was paid more money in his last job. The result of that is a wage gap today of 77 cents on the dollar. And when we say 77 cents, we're not talking about pennies here, because inequities, like investments, compound over time. When women are paid less hour after hour, year after year, a lifetime spent working under the wage gap cheats women out of a life-changing amount of money. In fact, some women of color who face pay discrimination that is even more severe, the wage gap will rob them of over $1 million by the end of their career. Women are literally paying the price of inaction here, and the cost is sky high. We have to put a stop to sexist pay practices for good, which is why I've proudly reintroduced the Paycheck Fairness Act once again this Congress, and have been championing this legislation for years, because it is long past time that we protect workers, close loopholes, and hold employers accountable for fair pay practices through greater transparency. And critically, we have to limit the use of previous wage history in the hiring process, because otherwise we are just letting employers lock in pay discrimination, and we're just letting the pay gap follow workers from job to job to job. This bill shouldn't be controversial. Congress has passed steps towards pay equality before. This is one more. It is badly needed. I urge my colleagues to vote yes on this legislation. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Murray. Are there any other members who wish to speak or offer an amendment to S. 728? Senator Cassidy.
I offer Cassidy number 1 as an amendment in the nature of a substitute. And this would replace the text of the Paycheck Fairness Act with provisions from the Wage Equity Act, which is sponsored by, legislation sponsored by Representative Elise Stefanik, which means it could be signed into law. It creates a safe harbor for businesses that conduct an internal wage audit and rectify disparities, while also strengthening the Equal Pay Act. And what it does do, it's also important what it doesn't do. It doesn't impose millions of dollars in compliance costs on small businesses, including those owned by women, under the guise of closing the pay gap. I would point out that the Paycheck Fairness Act has the potential to benefit trial attorneys more than working women, and it also helps businesses do the right thing. If a company self-audits and fixes the disparities that they find, they should be able to do so, encouraged to do so, without the fear of being sued. And it also makes sure that wage differences between different genders are due to real, legitimate business-related reasons, not an impossible and exceedingly vague standard, nearly impossible to demonstrate in a court of law. I would ask that my colleagues support the legislation.
Let me just mention that we have a lot of amendments today, and I'm going to urge people to keep their remarks to 2 minutes. I oppose Ranking Member Cassidy's amendment. His amendment would replace the Paycheck Fairness Act with an alternative that fails to address wage discrimination. This amendment would give employers a get-out-of-jail-free card for wage discrimination and unfairly limits the ability of workers to freely discuss their pay. I urge my colleagues to to vote no on this amendment when the vote takes place. Further discussion or other amendments? Other amendments?
I have amendment number 2.
Cassidy, amendment number 2.
Again, in the nature of a substitute, replaces the Paycheck Fairness Act with that of the Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Act, which is already law. Now, I'm actually going to offer and withdraw this. I just want to make the point, it is already illegal. It is already illegal to discriminate on the basis of gender. So the law that we're considering today is redundant, repetitive, not needed. And the Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Act was considered a great victory by those on the other side of the dais when it passed. And yet now it is inadequate. With that said, I offer and withdraw it, and I'm ready to move on.
Okay. Are there any other amendments?
Cassidy, number 3. The purpose of this one is to strike the section related to the enhanced enforcement of equal pay, which frankly helps trial attorneys more than it does the average worker. Employers are already prohibited by current law from paying people differently for doing the same or substantially similar work. And so the focus of this amendment, once more, is to empower women and help employers do the right thing, but without putting the emphasis there as opposed to the trial bar doing better. I would ask all to support.
I oppose Senator Cassidy's amendment. This amendment is a poison pill, clearly designed to undermine the entire bill. This amendment would allow unscrupulous employers to continue exploiting loopholes in the law to justify wage discrimination. It would also remove protections for workers to discuss their pay and advocate for equal pay for equal work in their workplace, free from retaliation. I urge my colleagues to vote no on this amendment when that vote takes place. Further discussion? Other amendments?
Cassidy, number 4.
Senator Cassidy.
This would remove the Department of Labor award for pay equity by striking Section 7 of the Paycheck Fairness Act, which establishes the National Award for Pay Equity in the workplace. And there's a lot of awards out there already. The federal government doesn't need to duplicate that which is already there. The companies can use the awards they receive to advertise for prospective employees and to maintain the employees they have. For example, Diversity Inc.'s top 50 companies for diversity list considers a variety of workplace practices and human capital metrics that employers and employees would be interested in. And of course, DOL can do this. They can do everything. No, they're not doing what they're supposed to do. So I would ask the DOL actually focus on its responsibilities it has under current law, including enforcing wage and hour laws, addressing growing child labor violations, figuring out how to address substantial pandemic unemployment assistance fraud, which totaled over $60 billion, and reduce persistent risk in the unemployment insurance program. So sure, they can do it. Why don't we ask them to do what they are supposed to do first? I ask my colleagues to support.
I oppose Senator Cassidy's amendment. This amendment would strike the creation of a national award for employers who work to achieve equal pay for equal work. This award is meant to recognize businesses that do the right thing, and that is to eliminate wage disparities, close the gender pay gap, and provide equal pay for equal work. I urge my colleagues to vote no on this amendment when that vote takes place. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Romney.
Mr. Chairman, I've been in the Senate now for about 5 years, and I've noted that individual members are free to give impassionate speeches and introduce bills that have no chance of passing. They know they have no chance of passing. It's all for politics and all for posturing. It accomplishes nothing for the country, doesn't move us forward, doesn't deal with the challenges we have. If an individual member wants to do that, I say, well, let them waste their time as they wish. They can spend their entire career in the Senate, have nothing passed whatsoever, get nothing done, except a lot of speeches and a lot of passion and a lot of followers. To have that apply to a committee, however, is really quite discouraging. To have our committee, to have our chair and ranking member not be able to work together and come up with provisions that might help women in the workplace, might improve worker conditions. To do that on a bipartisan basis, it's happened time and time again. But in this case, the committee is being used in the same way that some senators use their time, which is to score points, to make a messaging statement, to be impassionate, perhaps to get some contributions, but it accomplishes nothing and wastes all of our time. This is really unfortunate, Mr. Chairman, and does not speak to the seriousness of the times we live in, a time when we should be working to prepare ourselves for the challenges that we face.
Senator Romney, at another time, we may have that discussion, but not right now because we have a lot of work in front of us and I want to get these bills done. Other amendments? Any other amendments? Okay. All right, now we're moving on to S-1664, the Healthy Families Act. There is no manager's amendment. Are there any members who wish to speak or offer an amendment to S-1664?
Cassidy, number 2. Cassidy, number 2.
Senator Cassidy?
Yeah, so this would create exemptions for seasonal employees as covered individuals under the paid leave mandate in the Healthy Families Act. It's common for retailers and businesses to increase staffing to accommodate seasonal increase in business. The exemption for seasonal employees is specifically stated in state mandates passed by Maine, Rhode Island, and Nevada. And mandating a paid leave program for seasonal employees will force businesses to choose between hiring the necessary workers or risk closing during the busiest time of the year. Seasonal businesses are more likely to experience difficulty in predicting consumer demand and adjusting workforce, as each seasonal employer is less likely to have the capacity to manage the added complexities that come with a highly bureaucratic mandate. This amendment would give the flexibility to the small business that increase their staff during the busiest seasons, such as end of year, holidays, or summer, especially given that predicting the labor force needs is a challenge for seasonal employers. I ask my colleagues to support.
I oppose Senator Cassidy's amendment. This amendment would exempt more than 4 million seasonal employees in the United States from earning any paid sick time. Under the Healthy Families Act, employees can only begin using paid sick time after being employed by their employer after 60 calendar days. Seasonal employees are no less likely to face illness than their non-seasonal counterparts and should be able to utilize their earned sick time after the 60-day threshold like their colleagues. I urge a no vote on this amendment when it comes up for a vote. Further discussion or additional amendments? Senator Cassidy?
Amendment number 4.
Senator Cassidy?
Yeah, this is going to be an offer and withdrawal. It would replace the text of the Healthy Families Act with that of the Advancing Support for Working Families Act, legislation that I drafted with Senator Sinema, an actual bipartisan bill to help working families receive an advance on a child tax credit. She and I did lots of work on that, and it's my opportunity now to thank her. It's actually in the jurisdiction of the finance, and therefore I plan to withdraw based upon a point of order. But just to make the point, that paid leave, especially for new parents, is an important issue that deserves consideration. The Advancing Support for Working Families Act provides families with flexibility and support without burdening small businesses or costing taxpayers. The issue of paid leave spans multiple committees' jurisdiction, and bipartisan solutions should be part of a bigger effort in coordination with those committees, including Finance. But again, as I said, I shall withdraw this.
Okay, are there other amendments?
Yes, next would be Cassidy, number 5.
Senator Cassidy?
This would exempt companies that already offer paid leave policies that satisfy the 7-day requirements of the Healthy Families Act. And so between 2015 and 2022, this acknowledges that the percent of private industry workers with access to paid sick leave has increased to 77%. Particularly in times of economic recovery and high inflation, it's important to the employer that they not be hampered with additional costs and headaches associated with compliance of government mandates. and the market is clearly responding. So let's let the market work, as opposed to giving one more feather on the back of that camel that we call the job creators. I ask my colleagues to support.
I oppose Senator Cassidy's amendment. This amendment seeks to exempt employers who already provide at least 7 paid sick days to workers. Here is the problem with this amendment. Under Senator Cassidy's amendment, employers would be allowed to fire workers for taking unscheduled sick days, which is precisely what we saw in the rail industry. Further, Senator Cassidy's amendment would also allow corporations to deny paid sick leave to parents who need to take care of a sick child. In my view, this would be unacceptable. I would urge a no vote on this amendment when the vote takes place. Further discussion, other amendments.
Cassidy, number 6. This would ensure that religious employers would not be mandated to provide sick leave for services in conflict with sincerely held religious beliefs. And we have to acknowledge that employers have a right to maintain religious freedom and should not be federally mandated otherwise. We uphold that principle in other areas of the law. This language was previously included in past legislation. It is a natural amendment here. The amendment would exempt religious employers from any requirement of the law that grants leaves that would violate sincerely held religious beliefs and tenets. The amendment also affords the broadest applicability to employees of, quote, of such corporation, association, education, institution, or society, close quote. I ask my colleagues to support.
I oppose Ranking Member Cassidy's amendment. This amendment would exempt religious employers from having to provide paid sick leave. This amendment would remove sick leave protections for employers at religious institutions, including corporations, associations, and colleges. In my view, every employee in America deserves paid sick days regardless of where they work. I urge a no vote on this amendment when that vote takes place. Further discussion or amendments? Okay, we're now moving to S567, the final bill for consideration today, and that is the Richard L. Trumka Protecting the Right to Organize Act of 2023. There is no manager's amendment. Are there any members who wish to speak or offer an amendment to S567?
Mr. Chairman, I have an amendment at the desk.
Senator Mullen?
This amendment would change the name.
What's the number of your amendment?
S537, Mullen 1.
Okay.
Ready? Well, it comes at no surprise that Chairman Sanders, the lead sponsor of this bill, has a very different vision of America than I do. Chairman Sanders had introduced this bill as a union-backed solution in order to take on the corporate greed, quote, the billionaire class. It's interesting to me that he doesn't mention the millionaires class, considering that he joined that himself. The bill, however, is not about increasing the quality of an employer-employee relationship or allowing the free market to lift millions of workers out of poverty. It's about increasing the power of union bosses, like the one that was here one time, over the union bosses for the Teamsters, O'Malley, who quoted one time saying that he wants to bring the mob mentality back to the Teamsters. That's who you're empowering, Chairman. Eliminating states' right-to-work laws, which is what Oklahoma has, attacking employee privacy, and destroying successful business models like the franchise industry. That's why I'm offering an amendment to change the name of this bill to the Socialist Solutions for Labor Unions Act. I would urge my colleagues to vote for this amendment to align the bill's name with what it actually does. I yield back.
After serious consideration, I've decided not to accept that as a friendly amendment.
Well, what if we change it to your name?
My time.
Change it there.
This bill is supported by every union in America, by tens of millions of American workers and by organizations representing many millions more. So I would respectfully decline to accept that amendment and urge a no vote when it comes up. Other amendments? Senator Paul.
Paul Amendment 1. National Labor Relations Act. The National Labor Relations Act established monopoly bargaining, which gave union bosses the power to speak for 100% of the employees in a workplace if they won a bare majority of the ballots cast in a union election. What's worse, it gave union bosses the power to force workers to pay union dues as a condition of keeping their jobs. A union can be installed through a low turnout election where most of the workers don't vote at all and remain in place as workers come and go. One study found that 94% of workers in unionized workplaces never voted for the union that claims to represent them. Since 1947, Congress has allowed states to pass right-to-work laws, which prevent workers from being forced to pay union dues. Today, 26 of the 50 states have right-to-work laws on the book. The PRO Act would overturn every state's right-to-work law, including my state of Kentucky's law and many of the other states represented on this committee. My amendment replaces the PRO Act with the National Right-to-Work Act, which gives right-to-work protections to workers in all 50 states. It does so not by creating new law, but by striking a few lines of two federal statutes, lines that give union bosses the power to collect mandatory dues. Additionally, the PRO Act invades workers' privacy by forcing employers to hand over their personal cell phone numbers, email addresses, and home addresses to union organizers, exposing them to unwanted solicitation, harassment, and intimidation. According to one poll, 87% of Americans, including 85% of active union members, agree that workers should never be forced or coerced to join a union or to pay dues to a union as a condition of employment. Let's put bargaining power back in the hands of American workers and encourage job growth across the country. Let's replace the PRO Act with the National Right-to-Work Act. I ask for your support.
I oppose Senator Paul's amendment. This amendment is obviously a poison pill that would undermine the PRO Act. I urge my colleagues to vote no on this amendment when that vote takes place. Senator Cassidy.
I think that Senator Paul is being pretty reasonable here. Who would want their cell phone turned over to somebody so that that somebody could then contact them at their, convenience or at the inconvenience of the person who owns the cell phone to try and get them to join a union? I'm putting it kindly because there's a history in our country of people being forcibly coerced. Like, do we really want would we want our information doxed? And this is a form of doxing. In fact, we pass laws so that we don't get doxed. And here, we're like putting it into law that you can dox. Maybe not distributed to the general population, but certainly to the people that have a vested interest in changing somebody's mind, however they would change their mind. I speak strongly in support of Senator Paul's amendment.
Further discussion? Other amendments?
Mr. Chairman, I have an amendment at the desk.
Senator Mullen?
Mullen number 2. This amendment is very similar to Senator Paul's amendment. Currently, the NLRB requires employees to turn over the personal contact information of employees within 7 days of a union formation election. The late Richard Trumka, former president of the AFL-CIO and the namesake of this bill, said that unions need the information to meet people at, quote, grocery stores, any place where they can get them, even at their homes. I am firsthand witness to how personal information like this, especially your address to your home, has been used to intimidate individuals. My amendment restricts the information that an employee provides to a union organizer to one piece of contact information chosen by the employee. Now, if we're talking about employee rights, which the unions discuss all the time, I would think that the employee to which they're trying to get at, even at grocery stores or at their homes, they would feel like very strongly, including yourself, Chairman, who is pro-union, obviously, would be okay with an employee choosing the information that the unions get.
use this one, so I think I'm not going to do this.
My amendment restricts that information.
I'm not going to do it.
That, once again, the employee gets to choose what information is given. I would urge my colleagues to support this amendment. I yield back.
Amendment. This amendment is a poison pill that would undermine the PRO Act. I urge my colleagues to vote no on this amendment when that vote takes place.
Mr. Chairman,
Senator Paul.
I just wanted to ask unanimous consent to add Romney and Tuberville as co-sponsors of my amendment, the National Right to Work Amendment.
Without objection. Further discussion or amendments?
I'd like to comment on Senator Mullins.
Senator Cassidy.
I think Senator Mullins, as you might guess, I support Senator Mullins' amendment. Surveys find that almost 80% of union households and the general public support giving workers more control over personal information. Under the PRO Act, workers will be forced to provide personal contact information in order for unions to campaign at their home, abuse email addresses, or call them. Policymakers should not be creating an environment which facilitates worker coercion or intimidation. You know, in Scripture it says, what is the greatest of the laws? One of them is that you shall do unto your neighbor as you would have them do unto you. Which of us wants to give to those who might otherwise seek to coerce us our personal information? That's what this bill does. It's not that which we would want others to do to us. We should support Senator Mullins' amendment.
Further discussion? Further amendments?
Mr. Chairman, I have an amendment at the desk. It's Mullen number 3.
Senator Mullen.
To give a little background on current law, currently, after a union receives employee information while they're attempting to unionize the company workforce, they are under no requirement to protect that information. There is no penalty if a union misuses, shares, or sells the private information of an employee to prevent companies from advocating, organizing, or in many cases, to which the union has been known to do, political campaigns. Yes, they sell your information after they organize, even though if you vote not to organize, they will sell your information to political organizations so you can be solicited. The information a union receives, my amendment eliminates that. The information a union receives from an employer about his or her employees during a union organization campaign must be kept secure. Under no circumstances should a union be allowed to profit off the private information of employees it receives during a union organizing campaign. My amendment would make it unfair labor practice for a union to fail to protect employees' information. I would urge my colleagues to support this amendment. Yield back.
I oppose Senator Mullins' amendment. This amendment is a poison pill that would undermine the PRO Act. I urge my colleagues to vote no on this amendment when that vote takes place. Senator Cassidy.
I don't see why this would undermine the PRO Act. We got do not call lists for unwanted solicitors. Why don't we give that to workers? Even if they want to join a union, that doesn't mean they want their cell phone to be sold to everybody. We've passed laws in Congress for do not call list. And now we're allowing the same abuse that we've previously legislated against to be used to abuse people, whether or not they do or do not join a union. So I strongly support this bipartisan in intent amendment by Senator Mullins and would ask that we all support this reasonable amendment.
All right, let me just say a word. I don't want to go on a great length on this. It's what this whole bill is about. And what this bill is about is all over America. We are seeing workers beginning to stand up and fight for their rights, and we're seeing an unprecedented level of union organizing. And in response to that, what we are seeing is major corporations like Starbucks, and we had the gentleman from Starbucks here, Amazon, and corporations all over this country taking away and using illegal acts to deny workers the right to organize. In fact, in the last several years, corporations like Starbucks, Amazon, and others have spent hundreds of millions of dollars on union-busting campaigns and anti-union law firms. And what happens right now, if you are a corporation breaking the law, there is virtually no federal response to that. You can break the law with impunity. So what this bill is about is saying to corporations, if you break the law, you know what? You can't get away with it anymore. So this is terribly important because workers now want to join unions in order to get decent wages. Unionized workers earn better wages than non-unionized workers. They want better benefits. They want better working conditions. And we cannot allow the corporate world to spend unlimited sums of money to deny workers that right. Senator Cassidy.
That may be true, but that's totally beside the point of the Mullen Amendment. All the Mullen Amendment is saying, don't sell the phone number. Don't use it as a revenue stream to go out there and have people spamming people. And that's totally separate from the position that the chair has taken on the overall bill.
Further discussion or amendments?
Mr. Chairman,
Senator Braun.
we've got three amendments. Pardon?
We're still discussing.
Oh, okay.
Any other discussion?
I have to just comment on, Chairman, what you just said about unions all over and the union busting and unions. If it was true that employees all over the country wanted to join unions, then you would see unions gaining strength, not losing strength. You and I both know that union numbers have continued to drop and will continue to drop. And the whole reason why you're doing this bill is you're trying to strengthen unions so they can get more union dues. If it wasn't that their numbers were dropping, they wouldn't be screaming unfair practices. If all the employees wanted to join unions, then they could if they wanted to. You said that billionaires out there are trying to spend millions of dollars union busting. What you're doing is you're actually carrying the water for the unions. You're trying to make it to where they force employees to join unions, even when they don't want to. In my bill, trying to protect employee information, when you talk about all the time employee rights and that unions are supposed to be for employer or employees and that they want to protect employees' rights, how could you even kind of not accept this amendment by saying they want to protect their personal information and keep it from being sold? And your only comment is that it's a poison pill and it'll destroy the PRO Act, and you just move on. When you know good and well that every employee out there isn't one single union member that would say that they don't want their personal information, that it wouldn't want their personal information protected. If this was an employer and he didn't protect his employees' information, and I sold my employees' information to campaigns, and I failed to protect it, I'd be sued. And you'd be the first one up there saying they should be sued. But you're saying it's okay for unions to do that. Boy, that is about as hypocritical as I can ever imagine.
Further discussion.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Collins.
Mr. Chairman, I think that regardless of a member's position on the PRO Act, that all of us should support this amendment because it is intended to protect sensitive personal information of employees. And as the ranking member has pointed out, we have do not call lists. We have other registries and other protections that are intended to safeguard personal information to protect people from identity theft, for example. So regardless of whether you're for or against the underlying bill, I would urge support for this common sense privacy protection for employees.
Further discussion. Other amendments?
Mr. Chairman?
You have another amendment?
Yes, I have one more. Sorry, I've got to split because I have Senate Armed Services markup going on right now. This is Mullen number 4. In 2004, the National Labor Relations Board, NLRB, ruled that the tribal nations were not exempt from NLRA, resulting in unnecessarily and unwarranted overreach by the NRLA-B into the affairs of tribal governments. My amendment, tribal nations should be making their own decisions about labor laws and employment practices. Tribal governments are distinct political entities. They do not need National Labor Relations Board breathing down their neck, scrutinizing every labor decision made on their reservations. My amendment would restore the sovereignty back to the nations that the NLRB took from the tribal nations in 2004 and allow tribes to address issues such as minimum wage, workplace safety, employment discrimination on their terms as they see fit.
This amendment would exempt tribes and tribal businesses from the National Labor Relations Act. It is my determination that this amendment lies in the Indian Affairs Committee's jurisdiction and violates Rule 15 of the Standing Rules of the Senate. Accordingly, I rule it out of order.
I am offering and withdrawing this amendment, given that the bill has been referred to Indian Affairs Committee.
Thank you. Other amendments?
Mr. Chairman,
Senator Braun.
I want to offer my amendment number 1. It's to ensure that an employment relationship is not established between a franchisor and a franchisee if the franchisor engages in certain activities. This amendment, which is also a bill I've introduced, is intended to protect franchisors from engaging in socially responsible business practices with their franchisees. Oftentimes, franchisors have access to resources that franchisees do not. However, by requiring the use of these resources, these companies risk a court ruling that they are acting as joint employers of franchise employees. This amendment would allow a franchisor to require the use of certain literature, policies, and training for socially good programs, such as the promotion of apprenticeships, scholarships, child care, paid family leave, as well as many others. Preventing discrimination, sexual harassment, workplace violence. Under this amendment, franchisors would be encouraged to share the resources that are good for both them and the franchisee employees, society at large, without facing the risk of being improperly classified as a joint employer by a court. And I'll ask for a vote on that.
I oppose Senator Braun's amendment. This amendment would make it harder for workers at large franchises like McDonald's, a company that made over $6 billion in profits last year, from exercising their constitutional right to form a union and collectively bargain for better wages, benefits, and working conditions. The law is clear. Workers have a right to collectively bargain with all employers. This amendment erodes that fundamental right. This amendment is a poison pill clearly designed to undermine the entire bill. I urge my colleagues to vote no on this amendment. Discussion. Senator Cassidy.
Senator Braun, real quick question. You're just saying that at McDonald's, whatever they've earned, which seems beside the point, if McDonald's comes up with material that would prevent sexual harassment, that would make people more sensitive to those who are different than themselves, they could share it with the franchisees so they could train their employers, and that would make it, that would not somehow create a joint employer relationship.
All things I think the chairman of the committee would be interested in as well, but not to where it would trigger some type of court issue by doing that.
So if we don't do this, it discourages the McDonald's of the world from creating that material.
Exactly.
And it makes it more likely that there's sexual harassment or abuse, if that's going to occur, because it may be unwitting, but they're not getting the material that's been shown to be effective.
It'd be counter, I think, to what both sides of the aisle would be interested in general.
My gosh, this seems like a good amendment, but if we want to do so, if we want to use the resources that a big corporation can develop in order to train people to live in more harmony with others, that seems like something we should encourage, not put them at legal risk if they in turn use it. I yield.
Further discussion.
I have amendment number 2.
Yes, Senator Braun. Is that amendment number 2 coming up?
Yes. To amend the NLRA Act to reform the National Labor Relations Board, the Office of the General Counsel, in the process for appellate review. Under the Biden administration, the National Labor Relations Board is chosen to engage in partisan advocacy rather than doing its job. I have continuously held that the NLRB to account during the past 2.5 years for their failure to protect American workers and employers. This amendment, which is also a bill introduced by Senator Blackburn and I that would be happy to have others on as a co-sponsor, will return the agency to its intended purpose. That is, as an independent federal agency that acts as an impartial body in deciding cases related to the National Labor Relations Act. This amendment would end the partisanship at the NLRB by increasing the number of board members from 5 to 6 and requiring an even split among Republicans and Democrats sitting on the board. Further, it would require all board members to approve all decisions, which would ensure bipartisanship. This amendment would work also to encourage a quick resolution of cases before the board by allowing parties to appeal to a federal court of appeals if the board fails to reach a decision in the case within 1 year.
Further discussion? I oppose Senator Braun's amendment. This amendment would make it harder for workers to join a union and receive a first union contract. Unfortunately, as currently drafted, I'm afraid that the only people who would benefit from this amendment are corporate executives who are engaged in illegal union busting, the same folks who are working overtime to prevent workers from successfully forming a union. I urge my colleagues to vote no on this amendment at the appropriate time. Further discussion?
You know, just to comment on this, the chair has characterized this as a partisan, but you're actually making the NLRB nonpartisan. And so if there's a Republican president and we have and a Republican Senate and House and we have 3 Republicans instead of 2 Democrats, this would actually work to mitigate that swing of jurisdiction and would allow those on this side of the aisle, their constituents, if you will, to more quickly go to court. This actually restores it to what it originally was supposed to be, a neutral arbiter, as opposed to having an activist general counsel who's putting her thumb on the scale to make it go in one direction.
I think you hit it right on the head, and again, if things were flipped, I'm sure the other side might be for this. To me, this is a model, a paradigm that works regardless of who's in charge.
Okay.
Further discussion or new amendments?
One more amendment.
Senator Braun.
Amendment number 3, to preserve provisions in the National Labor Relations Act and Labor Management Relations Act 1947 regarding the prohibition of secondary boycotts. This amendment strikes language in the PRO Act that allows for secondary boycotts. Secondary boycott is an industrial action taken by a union against a company on grounds that the company does business with another company that is currently engaged in a labor dispute. The National Labor Relations Act currently protects the right to strike or picket a primary employer, an employer with whom a union has a labor dispute. But it also seeks to keep neutral employers from being dragged into the fray. The PRO Act would allow unions to participate in secondary boycotts throughout the supply chain, which would inflict economic damage on all small businesses that have nothing to do with the labor dispute. It is currently unlawful for a union to coerce a neutral employer to force it to cease doing business with a primary employer. My amendment preserves current law.
I oppose Senator Braun's amendment. The PRO Act repeals harmful anti-union measures enacted in Taft-Hartley over 75 years ago. Since 1947, Taft-Hartley has done exactly what it was intended to do: make it harder for workers to exercise their fundamental right to strike and form unions. Repealing these unfair rules is long overdue and is exactly the kind of change to our nation's outdated labor laws that we need to enact. I urge my colleagues to vote no on this amendment at the appropriate time. Senator Cassidy.
You know, I can imagine some small businesswoman is out there saying, this isn't the PRO Act, this is the Anti-Small Business Act. We're talking about secondary strikes. You can still go after the big kahuna. But when the small business is out there, the small contractor who's a job creator, who's the one who's the employer, the owner, is working 100 hours a week to make ends meet, and she gets a strike on her as a secondary strike, she doesn't have the deep pockets to absorb that. She goes out of business. There's provision after provision in this bill which is just going after her, just striking her, just trying to nail her down. I think it's so wrong. I agree with your amendment, Senator Braun, and I think if we just imagine have a little bit of sympathy for these small businesses, I think this would have bipartisan support. I urge support of this amendment.
One final comment here, if I might.
Senator Braun.
I try to pick things that are practical, and then I hear from the street, like the NFIB. I came from a world of small business, and you got to remember, a small business is a blue-collar job wrapped into all the responsibilities of being on the line, and no business ever gets large unless you start small. And the last thing we ought to be doing through here is promoting policy that makes it harder for businesses to start, because at some point you'll need that heavy offset of a union against large corporations. I'm talking about, why go after the gig economy, independent contractors, and small businesses? Someday we know where that takes us. These are all practical amendments that we ought to be supporting. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Further amendments?
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Marshall.
Chairman Sanders, I'd like to call up Marshall Amendment number 1. This amendment is critical to protect a successful, proven method for Americans to achieve personal and financial success, the joint employer model, or more commonly seen in practice as franchises. With the franchise model, I've seen many veterans, women, and minorities become business owners, a very successful model. When I think of Wichita, Kansas, I think of so many franchises getting their origin there. While at the same time we have a strong union presence in our aerospace industry, that at least in that community there appears to be a good balance between the success of the unions and the success of franchises, and I want them both to be successful. Every franchise in Kansas I speak to loves the current joint employer model. Many of them have been in my office this week. They can run their franchise like their own independent small business while having their franchisor as a support system. If the broad definition of a joint employer in this bill were to be enacted, the entire system would be upended. Franchisors would invade these small businesses and have to micromanage each location because of the legal uncertainty the PRO Act's definitions can create. At that point, current franchises will essentially become corporate managers with no say in how the business operates, killing many of these small businesses, forcing many out of their opportunity to live this American dream. Being a middleman isn't a pathway for Americans to find prosperity. We must have a clear and narrow definition of a joint employer to preserve the tried and true system we have today. This amendment would do so by defining a joint employer as one who is directly, actually, and immediately in control of the business operations. This includes hiring, firing, setting salaries, and all the responsibilities we think of when someone's in charge of a business. If you're the one putting up the money, the time, the sweat, taking the risk to start a business, you shouldn't have to have some corporate overlord looking over you. You should have the freedom to operate how you see best for your business and your employees. I hope my colleagues on this committee will join me in supporting this amendment and maintain a pathway that has led to success for so many Americans. Thank you.
Thank you. I oppose Senator Marshall's amendment. This amendment would undermine protections for workers whose workplaces are controlled by more than one employer. This amendment would not only weaken workers' bargaining rights, it would also weaken their ability to receive overtime, minimum wage, and equal pay. I urge my colleagues at the appropriate time to vote no on this amendment. Further discussion. Senator Cassidy.
I thank Senator Marshall. I will note that his underlying bill upon this amendment is based has the support of over 40 different organizations. But, you know, we can talk about organizations. Let's talk about people. I stayed recently at a hotel in Monroe, Louisiana, right off the interstate like you see these. The owner comes out. We meet. Great guy from India, moved here, had never started a business. He got help from, I think it was Hilton, put the business together. Now he's got like 5 different things. And he takes these hotels and he works with them, but he's the one who runs it. And he shows me this is where we do the towels. And I ask, what if somebody vomits on it? How do you clean it up? And he tells me how they clean it up, and on and on. Now,
how do they clean it up? We all want to know.
They got this huge, this kind of industrial sort of, and this shouldn't count against my time, industrial washing machine. It's quite remarkable because he's responsible for the loss that would occur if somebody soiled linen and you could not reuse it. Now he's on the hook for that. So the idea that because he gets advice when he starts his business from Hilton means that they're in a joint employer relationship ignores the role that this man plays. I will point out that almost a third of franchise owners report they would not own a business if not franchisees. Closer to 40% of female franchise owners and first-time businesses say they would not own a business if they were not franchisees. In this piece of legislation, we seek to make them not franchisees, but employees. And in that becoming an employee, they lose a lot. More importantly, our communities lose a lot. So I strongly support those small employers. I strongly support Senator Marshall's amendment. I strongly support that hotelier in Monroe, Louisiana, and everyone who likes him, who came from another country and found opportunity because of things such as this, which this bill attempts to kill.
Okay, other amendments? Other amendments? Senator Cassidy, do you have any answer?
Cassidy number one. Cassidy number one.
Cassidy number one? Okay.
Cassidy number one protects freelancers and gig workers by codifying the common law worker classification test under the Fair Labor Standards Act. Independent contractors, we call them freelancers, make their own hours. They choose the type of work they wish to do. They're shielded from forced or coerced unionization that would strip that flexibility away. Now, of course, this has made eliminating this classification a top priority for large labor unions who benefit from more workers being forced to pay mandatory union dues. The recent Atlanta Opera decision puts freelancers on notice that the current NLRB will continue to pick away at their ability to remain contractors. Reclassifying freelancers and gig workers as employees, good for unions, easier to organize folks, easier to put dues upon them, but it does not make good sense for the worker unless she would decide to do so herself. I ask folks to support those freelancers, support this amendment.
I oppose Ranking Member Cassidy's amendment. This amendment would deny collective bargaining rights to misclassified workers. The ABC test in this bill ensures that misclassified workers have the right to organize and fight back against union-busting efforts by profitable corporations like Uber and Lyft. This amendment is clearly designed to undermine the bill. I urge my colleagues at the appropriate time to vote no on this amendment. Discussion. Seeing none, further amendments.
Cassidy number two.
Cassidy, two.
When deciding whether or not to unionize, workers deserve to have the facts. Union salts are being dishonest with their fellow coworkers by not telling them that the union is paying them to come and act like a regular worker as they organize a work site. Requiring a union salt to disclose to colleagues that they're strictly to organize on behalf of the union gives workers that kind of, okay, this person has a point of view influenced by who is otherwise paying them. It gives the worker the information they need to make an informed decision. This amendment makes it an unfair labor practice to fail to inform fellow workers the SALT is being paid by a union to organize a workplace. It also adds informative language to the NLRB's employee rights poster, informing workers they should be told if a colleague is also working for a union. Recent disclosures by the Service Employees International Union, SEIU, indicate an individual with the same name as one of the witnesses that recently testified before the Help Committee was paid nearly $11,000 as a, quote, organizer intern. It would be very troubling to learn if this was a deliberate action taken to hide one's connection with the union while testifying as an individual attempting to unionize their work site. I urge support for this amendment.
I oppose Senator Cassidy's amendment. This amendment would have a chilling effect on worker organizing. Let's be clear. Employers have created a multi-million-dollar union-busting industry to intimidate their workers. When employers have nearly round-the-clock access to workers, workers in the union should have just as many opportunities to share the benefits of a union. I urge my colleagues at the appropriate time to vote no on this amendment. Discussion? Seeing none, further amendments.
Cassidy 3.
Cassidy 3.
Cassidy 3, a secret ballot must represent the will of the majority of workers in a bargaining unit. Recent elections demonstrate workers did not even want to address unionization, as reflected by a low election turnout. Requiring the vote to represent 50+1 of the workers is a better measure for the desire of union representation. This would require a majority of employees in a workplace to cast a vote in a secret ballot election during an organizing campaign.
I oppose Senator Cassidy's amendment. This amendment would make it harder for workers to elect a union to represent them. I urge my colleagues at the appropriate time to vote no on this amendment.
I'll just note, if I may, in the Senate, on the Senate floor, we require a majority of folks to be there. Anyway, just to say. Cassidy, number 4.
Cassidy 4.
Would prohibit the use of remote voting in an organizing campaign to ensure the integrity of union elections and the privacy of the voter. A secret ballot is the best practice for voting. As new technologies emerge, there have been calls to allow for remote voting in union elections, but the privacy of the voter and ensuring the person voting is an eligible individual is paramount, and prohibiting remote voting is the only way to ensure the integrity of union elections. I urge support for this amendment.
I oppose Senator Cassidy's amendment. This amendment would prevent workers from voting in union elections electronically or by phone unless there is an emergency or major disaster. This unnecessarily limits the ability of workers to vote and allows employers to more easily interfere in union elections. This amendment is designed to undermine the entire bill. I urge my colleagues at the appropriate time to vote no on this amendment.
Cassidy, number 5.
Cassidy 5.
This would prohibit unauthorized aliens from signing cards in an organizing campaign and create an unfair labor practice when the union allows that. Now, this is not about immigration. This is about union membership supporting democratic political interest. Democrats are prioritizing those illegally in this country, taking jobs from those who are citizens or who have permanent work status. Those who stood in line, followed the rules, just to add to the dues of the union bosses. The PRO Act would give these folks here illegally further private rights, allowing them to sue employers. This further pits union interests against the American worker and the American small business owner, disadvantaging working men and women for, frankly, a big political democratic interest. I'll also note it's against the law for someone born in a citizen of another country to contribute to a political campaign. We know a lot of these dues are used to support political campaigns. That's kind of what unions do, but it's always on one side of the aisle, not on the other. They're taking dues from those who are here illegally and using them to support political campaigns, which seems to violate a few laws of our nation. For several reasons, including that, I ask my colleagues to support this.
I oppose Ranking Member Cassidy's amendment. This amendment would limit the ability of employees to organize in workplaces that employ undocumented workers by requiring proof of legal work authorization to vote in union elections. For too long, employers have exploited undocumented immigrant workers and guest workers to maximize their own profits. Every worker in America deserves dignity, a living wage, and a union. I urge my colleagues to vote no on this amendment at the appropriate time.
Cassidy, number 6.
Cassidy, number 6.
This would prohibit those here illegally from being able to sue an employer for an unfair labor practice. And put this in context, the Biden administration, illegal border crossings have hit all-time highs. And the border crisis can only really be solved by controlling the magnet of jobs. Instead of ensuring workers are eligible to work, the PRO Act shows clear evidence that unauthorized workers are participating in unions. So now they're earning a paycheck they're not legally eligible to earn, and the PRO Act is adding a private right of action. None of these will discourage illegal immigration. None of these will encourage someone to go through the legal process. So I ask support for this amendment.
I oppose Senator Cassidy's amendment. This amendment denies undocumented workers who are victims of union busting a full remedy under the law. Undocumented workers already face severe risks for exercising their rights, and this amendment only continues their exploitation. I urge my colleagues to vote no at the appropriate time on this amendment. Further discussion?
Cassidy, 7.
Cassidy, 7.
This would, kind of echoing what I said earlier, this would prohibit unions from using dues collected from those here illegally for political purposes. It's against the law. Like, are we really going to pass something which would, like, subvert law elsewhere? The simple fact is federal election laws prohibit non-U.S. citizens from contributing to political campaigns. If unions use dues collected from those here illegally, they should not put these in the coffers of a union election fund to fund political candidates and circumvent federal election law. I mean, it just sounds so kind of like, duh, that I don't know. But that said, I'm sure it'll be said that this undermines the whole bill. All this amendment does is ensures consistent application of campaign finance laws.
Well, perhaps at another time, we could talk about a corrupt campaign finance system, which was made worse by Citizens United, and the need to get rid of that bill. But for the moment, I would simply oppose Senator Cassidy's amendment. This amendment singles out undocumented workers on an issue that is already heavily regulated. Unions are subject to multiple layers of federal law concerning political contributions, and this amendment inappropriately throws worker authorization status into the mix. This amendment would require unions to ask workers about their immigration status, which only further discourages them from organizing. I urge my colleagues to vote no on this amendment at the appropriate time.
Cassidy 8.
Cassidy 8.
This would prohibit labor organizations from communicating with employees who are here illegally in order to organize these individuals into a union. This bill prioritizes the organization of illegal aliens, which is kind of, seems to be part of an agenda to elevate folks here illegally to the same level or above working Americans and legal workers who follow the rules. The right to join a union is fundamental for those who are legally participating in our economy. To allow otherwise is to undermine basic tenets of the rule of law, our market-based system, and respect to our fellow Americans who are in those workplaces.
I oppose Senator Cassidy's amendment. This amendment prohibits unions from communicating with any undocumented workers. That means unions would have to ask workers about the immigration status, which only further discourages them from organizing. All workers need rights, especially undocumented workers who are subjected to particularly severe exploitation on the job. I urge my colleagues to vote no on this amendment at the appropriate time. Other amendments.
Cassidy number 9.
Cassidy 9.
This would amend the National Labor Relations Act to prevent students from being defined as employees of a college or university. Reclassifying students as employees shifts the relationship between institutions of higher education and their students. The shift to reclassify students as employees would create a two-tiered system where traditional students are subject to the school's code of conduct, and other students would work under an employment contract, removing a connection to academics. Unionization attempts will also impact student athletes and programs by driving up the cost of keeping them funded. Smaller schools and Title IX programs could be at risk. Schools will be forced to implement different systems of discipline, investigations of misconduct, and punishment. It's unclear just how this would work in practice. For many other practical reasons, I ask my colleagues to support this amendment.
Senator Murphy.
I don't mean to break up the good rhythm that you guys have going, but I will be similarly brief in opposing this amendment. This is an issue that is currently before the NLRB. I think it's appropriate to keep it there. The fact of the matter is there are many student athletes out there who are being treated exactly like employees, who are given a benefit, a scholarship that can be taken away from them if they don't perform or if they refuse to perform. In fact, as we try to figure out the path forward and trying to solve what are some fundamental unfairnesses in our college, big-time college sports industries today, it may actually be in the end that what makes most sense is not Congress prescribing a set of rules for college athletic programs, but in fact to allow student athletes to bargain directly with the programs. That is frankly what many of the most high-profile coaches are starting to come to as the best possible conclusion moving forward. Hopefully this committee at some point will have a hearing on this topic. I think it's clearly within our jurisdiction, but at this point I think it's best left to the NLRB, and I'd oppose this amendment.
Further discussion.
I'll respond to that.
Senator Cassidy.
That's why we're offering the amendment. I don't think this should be a choice of an activist general counsel, NLRB. It should be the choice of Congress. The part of the problem is Congress continues to cede to the executive branch tough decisions that require representation from all facets of society. and then we give it to someone who's politically motivated in NLRB, and it changes 2 years later when the administration changes. I mean, we are discharging, we are avoiding our responsibility as representing our fellow citizens by saying, let the bureaucracy do it. We can go over the merits, it's worthwhile, but we should be going over the merits, not leaving it to a political appointee who's got a kind of axe to grind. So please, I ask.
Actually, listen, I think this is an issue that's very appropriate for this committee. It's why I'd recommend we have a hearing on it. I actually think we probably should ultimately weigh in on this question as to whether they should have bargaining rights and what they look like. I just think it's a pretty complicated topic, one that would probably be best served by us having a process in this committee outside of this piece of legislation.
Further discussion? Okay, other amendments?
Number 10.
Cassidy, 10.
This would end the International Longshore Workers Union monopoly on the West Coast ports in order to help prevent future stoppages and slowdowns. The ILWU is using its monopoly at the ports on the West Coast to put a chokehold on interstate commerce. This affects the entire nation's supply chains. It's just untenable. The annual economic impact of these ports' work is $2 trillion a year. This amendment requires the collective bargaining agreements to be staggered in order to prevent continual supply chain disruptions from halting the economy. It provides a balance for collective bargaining for unions to reach agreement on salary and benefits that also reflects the economic realities of the surrounding communities, indeed our entire nation. As demonstrated during the pandemic, the nation's supply chain must be protected. I commend the longshoremen who come to work every day to ensure that essential products are delivered, but not at the expense of the supply chain going forward.
I oppose Senator Cassidy's amendment. Let me begin by thanking Acting Labor Secretary Julie Su for working with both parties at the West Coast ports to reach a fair agreement that provides workers with the dignity they deserve. I also want to congratulate the port workers who have worked tirelessly and heroically in the face of extreme challenges on the major improvements to their pay and benefits they have finally received. This amendment would significantly limit the bargaining power of port workers by weakening their ability to strike or slow down productivity. Strikes and slowdowns are fundamental rights of workers and are vital to productive, good faith bargaining and holding unscrupulous employers accountable for their actions. I urge my colleagues to vote no at the appropriate time on this amendment.
Number 11, Cassidy 11.
Cassidy, 11.
Clarify that an employer can discipline a worker for using derogatory language. The federal law recognizes that employees deserve the protection of all laws regulating the workplace, including anti-discrimination and anti-harassment protections. Allowing disruptive and disrespectful employees to be reinstated ignores the obvious rationale for why an employer chose to terminate the individual. The politicalization of the NLRB continues when it's clear it will side with union organizing efforts at the expense of other federal statutes involving the right to a workplace free from racial and sexually offensive conduct. And by the way, the context for this is that there have been recent situations in which those who were opposing people showing up to work posted references to the manager, such as he's a nasty MF, with MF spelled out, doesn't know how to talk to people, F his mother and his entire effing family. What a loser. Vote yes for the union. That should not be allowed, period, end of story. So I urge, why wouldn't you support this one? This cannot undermine the underlying bill. This is just demanding that people actually not be verbally abusive to fellow workers. I urge support.
I oppose Senator Cassidy's amendment. This amendment would prevent workers from standing up for their rights on the job. The NLRB already considers whether inappropriate behavior is legally protected. I urge my colleagues to vote no on this amendment at the appropriate time.
Next would be Romney number 1.
Romney number 1.
This would guarantee the right to a secret ballot election when an employee is choosing to unionize a work site. On behalf of Senator Romney, I'll say that his amendment would amend the National Labor Relations Act to explicitly protect the right of employees to elect their union representation by secret ballot. Employees deserve to choose their union representation free of influence from their employers, peers, and organizers. Senator Romney's amendment assures employees that they have this right. I urge all my colleagues to support.
I oppose Senator Romney's amendment. This amendment would specify that union elections must be done by secret ballot. This would eliminate the ability of workers to form and join unions through voluntary recognition, like Ben & Jerry's recently did in Burlington, Vermont. Further, let's be clear. The PRO Act only allows card check when an employer has severely interfered with and prevented a fair election. I urge my colleagues at the appropriate time to vote no on this amendment.
I now will offer Tuberville number 1.
Tuberville 1.
This would require unions to allow workers to choose how their union dues are spent for political purposes. I thank Coach for offering this amendment. People are working hard to earn a paycheck and should have a say in how that money is spent. Workers in right-to-work states like Louisiana have the power to choose whether to join a union and how their paychecks are used. This economic power should be given to all workers, but especially the power to determine how their union dues are spent for political purposes. It's only fair to those workers. I urge support.
I oppose Senator Tuberville's amendment. This amendment places an unnecessary burden on unions by requiring them to seek annual approval from workers before using dues for political activity. Let's be clear, unions already follow strict rules limiting how members' dues are spent and collected. I urge my colleagues at the appropriate time to vote no on this amendment.
Next will be Mullen 5.
Mullen 5.
This would ensure that employers provide training to educate workers how to identify human trafficking and the prevention of human trafficking, and that the prevention of human trafficking is not deemed as a joint employer under the new standard created by the PRO Act. I think Mullins is acting. Senator Mullins is kind of like putting his. It's human trafficking is a scourge. Employers should be encouraged to train and educate workers to identify and prevent human trafficking. Similar to the Braun Amendment, providing educational materials that support socially good practices, like those to help prevent trafficking, should not subject an employer to joint employer status. Such actions could chill the efforts of preventing trafficking and working with U.S. government law enforcement. Oh my gosh, for God's sake, let's just support this one. I mean, certainly we can say that human trafficking is enough of an issue that we can put aside a theoretical possibility that this would keep people from being organized to protect someone from being exploited. I urge support.
Well, I would agree with Senator Cassidy and Senator Mullen that human trafficking is clearly unconscionable. This amendment, however, is completely unnecessary because supply chain audits are not used to determine joint employer status. I urge my colleagues at the appropriate time to vote no on this amendment.
Bud number 1.
Bud number 1.
Bud number 1 would require the Department of Labor Secretary to certify that the PRO Act will not have an adverse effect on employment rates of women. I thank Senator Bud for this amendment. Now, there could be unintended consequences of this legislation, and many of the advances have been made through the independent contracting model, which has been linked with giving working moms more flexibility and providing dads the opportunity to take on more child care responsibility. In fact, women are driving 55% of the growth in the independent contractor area. But the PRO Act would make it more difficult to be an independent contractor by imposing a highly controversial ABC test nationally. The PRO Act should not go into effect until the Secretary of Labor can certify it will not have an adverse effect on the employment rate of women. I urge the adoption of the amendment.
I oppose Senator Budd's amendment. This amendment would prohibit the PRO Act from being implemented until the Labor Secretary certifies that it will not increase the unemployment rate of women. This amendment is a poison pill clearly designed to undermine the entire bill. The pro-worker provisions included in this bill will benefit all workers, especially women. According to the Department of Labor, I quote, "Unions are a unique solution to closing the gender pay gap and ensuring equitable pay for women because unions collectively bargain wages and pay scales that are transparent to all workers and apply to workers in the same job equally," end of quote. The PRO Act will make it easier for women to form unions and receive jobs to pay a living wage. I urge my colleagues at the appropriate time to vote no on this amendment.
Well, heck, it's going to make it easier. It should be easier to comply with the amendment. So it seems like an endorsement of the bill. But that said, willing to move on to Bud number 2.
Bud 2.
This will require the Department of Labor Secretary to certify that the PRO Act will not have an adverse effect on the employment rate of minorities. Again, I thank Senator Budd. The PRO Act is not a pro-worker bill, it's a pro-union bill, particularly true with respect to minorities. The PRO Act threatens the viability of the franchise model by broadening the joint employer standard. More than a quarter of franchise establishments are minority-owned. The PRO Act should not go into effect until the Secretary of Labor can certify it will not have an adverse effect on the employment rate of minorities. Going to the previous discussion, if it's so clear that unions are going to help employment of minorities, this is easy because it's going to be so easy to prove. But if it's going to be difficult to prove that, I can see why folks would object to that. So I would urge the adoption of this amendment.
I oppose Senator Budd's amendment. This amendment would prohibit the PRO Act from being implemented until the Labor Secretary certifies that it will not increase the unemployment rate of minorities. This amendment is a poison pill clearly designed to undermine the entire bill. The reality is that black union workers and Hispanic union workers receive much better benefits, much better pay and working conditions than their non-union counterparts. I urge my colleagues to vote no on this amendment at the appropriate time.
Bud number 3.
Bud 3.
Would require the Secretary of Labor to certify the PRO Act will not have an adverse effect on the employment rate of veterans. Again, this is not a pro-worker bill, it's a pro-union bill, particularly in respect to veterans. The bill would significantly increase employment costs, overturn state right-to-work laws that have been correlated with significantly higher employment growth than non-right-to-work states, and attack the franchising model utilized by thousands of veterans. The PRO Act should not go into effect until the Secretary of Labor can certify it will not have an adverse effect on the employment rate of veterans. I urge adoption.
I oppose Senator Budd's amendment. This amendment would prohibit the PRO Act from being implemented until the Labor Secretary certifies that it will not increase the unemployment rate of veterans. This amendment is a poison pill clearly designed to undermine the entire bill. The PRO Act strengthens the rights of the 1.5 million veterans in America who belong to a union and will make it easier for all of our nation's veterans to form a union. I urge my colleagues to vote no at the appropriate time on this amendment.
Bud 4.
Bud 4.
Strike the definition of an employee that eliminates independent contractors. Senator Budd would like to say that the underlying legislation attempts to upend successful business models that work for many throughout the country and implement a California-style ABC test that 58% of Californians oppose and has required changes that are now longer than the law itself. This, of course, has made eliminating this classification a top priority for large labor unions who benefit from more workers being forced to pay mandatory union dues. By striking this extremely flawed definition of the PRO Act, independent contractors throughout the country can remain in control of their own working conditions. I urge adoption of the amendment.
I oppose Senator Budd's amendment. This amendment would allow unscrupulous employers to continue misclassifying workers as independent contractors or label ordinary workers as supervisors to prevent them from exercising their constitutional right to form a union. This ABC test included in the PRO Act ensures that all workers have the right to organize and cracks down on union-busting efforts by profitable corporations like Uber and Lyft. This amendment is a poison pill clearly designed to undermine the entire bill. I urge my colleagues to vote no on this amendment at the appropriate time.
Bud 5.
Bud 5.
Yeah, so Bud 5 is kind of like makes sense. You know, we have laws before us that were written 100 years ago, but are now living in 2023. So number 5 would require a GAO study on the ABC test to be submitted to Congress not later than 1 year after the enactment of the PRO Act. And there's no way this can undermine the underlying bill. We've got these 100-year-old labor laws. Bud is raising the issue that we should explore on a bipartisan basis. We could modernize how we think about labor laws to meet the needs of today's workers and today's economy instead of trying to pigeonhole them into a paradigm that doesn't work anymore. My colleague Mark Warner has said the fact that 58% of Californians say they don't want to force everybody back into the 20th century, talking about worker classification, that model, ought to give us, and I'm quoting Mark Warner, particularly Democrats and even my more progressive brethren, pause about how we think about, you know, let's not fight the 20th century battles. Let's make sure workers in 2020 and going forward have the benefits and the portability they need, close quote. I think I got most of that right, Mark, if you're listening. Point being is that even on the left, folks are recognizing that our 100-year-old laws need to be reexamined. Since there are no hearings scheduled held on the bills before us, a GAO study would enable us to start to work on these issues with better, more robust information. I urge the adoption of an amendment that certainly will not undermine the underlying bill, but may give us information going forward when we begin to work once more on a bipartisan basis.
I oppose Senator Budd's amendment. This amendment would require the GAO to conduct a study about the impact this legislation would have on gig workers and independent contractors. The senator has every right to request the GAO conduct a study on any topic that he wants, but I do not believe that we need to mandate such a GAO report in this bill. In my view, we must not allow employers to continue to misclassify workers as independent contractors to prevent them from exercising their right to form a union. I would ask my colleagues to vote no on this amendment at the appropriate time.
Next is Bud number 6.
Bud 6.
This would prohibit the DOL secretary from promulgating any rule instituting the ABC test. Senator Budd's points are that during the Secretary of Labor nomination hearing, we heard a great deal about the problems California has in implementing the ABC test. As already stated, the ABC law was so unpopular and problematic, over 100 exemptions to the law have been enacted. The DOL's recently released regulatory agenda suggests the department is working to finalize a change to independent contractor classification by August 2023. This amendment would ensure that the regulation does not allow for the components of the ABC test, which were tried in California's failed AB5 law, to be written into federal regulations. I urge adoption.
I oppose Senator Budd's amendment. This amendment prohibits the Secretary of Labor from promulgating any rule instituting an ABC test. The reality is that it's the National Labor Relations Board that has the responsibility for implementing the PRO Act, not the Secretary of Labor. I urge my colleagues to vote no on this amendment at the appropriate time.
Bud 7.
Bud 7.
Would allow a union employee to work during an ongoing labor dispute. Senator Budd's concerned that workers should not be punished if they choose not to support a strike. Union members don't get paid exorbitant salaries of union presidents. It's not easy to support a family and pay bills on a strike fund pay. Everyone should remember that these issues impact real people trying to pay their bills, put work on their family's table, pay their taxes, live their lives. Walk a mile in their shoes. You got bills to pay, you show up to work. Those union members should not be punished for making a decision right for them and their families. I urge, on behalf of Senator Budd, adoption of this amendment.
I oppose Senator Budd's amendment. This amendment prohibits unions from disciplining workers who cross a picket line or a strike. The truth of the matter is that unions are already strictly regulated when it comes to how they can enforce respecting strikes. This amendment is clearly designed to undermine the bill. I urge my colleagues to vote no on this amendment at the appropriate time.
Next is Bud 10.
Bud 10.
This would require DOL Secretary to certify PRO Act will not have an adverse effect on equal pay. Senator Budd points out that the PRO Act would increase employment costs by up to $61 billion. One of the ways it does this is by overturning 26 states' right-to-work laws. Between 2001 and 2016, private sector employment growth in right-to-work states increased almost 27% and only 15% in non-right-to-work states. If the PRO Act were to become law, overnight, 2.7 million workers would be forced to pay union dues or lose jobs, and 61 million would be forced to pay dues if their workplace is unionized. The PRO Act should not go into effect until the Secretary of Labor can certify that it will not have an adverse effect on equal pay. I urge adoption.
I oppose Senator Budd's amendment. This amendment would delay the implementation of the PRO Act until the Labor Secretary certifies that it will not adversely affect the gender pay gap. The reality is that being in a union reduces the gender pay gap by nearly 40% for workers compared with non-unionized women.
Bud number 11.
Bud number 11.
Strike Section 106 of the PRO Act, which provides for damages against employers for violations of unfair labor practices. Senator Budd's amendment seeks to preserve the balance of the National Labor Relations Act. The PRO Act ignores that unions commit unfair labor practices in the course of representation activities. It's wrong to simply add one-sided penalties to the NLRA on the basis of an ideological belief that businesses are inherently evil. Again, if the whole purpose of NLRA is to be balanced, there shouldn't be penalties on one side of the equation as opposed to the other, and this amendment recognizes that.
I oppose Senator Budd's amendment. This amendment guts a fundamental protection in the PRO Act, making sure workers are fairly compensated if an employer violates their rights. I urge my colleagues to vote no on this amendment at the appropriate time.
Point of order, Chair Sanders.
Yes.
I note a lack of required quorum under Rule 26 of the Standing Rules of the Senate and Rule 4 of the Help Committee. We must have at least 7 members to transact business. We currently have 6. We lack the required quorum. The committee must adjourn until we have a quorum.
If, that is what you want, we can do that. We can adjourn, but I would much prefer, for all of our sakes, that we move this thing quickly. Is it something you want to reconsider, Bill? We're going to get the other member here, but we're just going to delay this. I think we're moving pretty quickly, and I think all of us want to do this as quickly as possible. I would hope that we can continue to move. Is that something you might consider?
Well, we're going to hold off because it's kind of making the point of our objection that this has been an entirely partisan episode. We've had no input into it, and as kind of futile as it seems, this should have been bipartisan. It should have been something we could have worked on together and found things in common we could work on. And instead, I keep on thinking of Senator Romney's comments.
Okay, what we'll do then, if Senator, that's what you want, Senator Cassidy, we'll recess till 2:15. I believe we have, correct me if I'm wrong, 4 more amendments. We'll deal with those and we'll vote. So we are recessed until 2:15. With that. Amidst chaos, we're going to reconvene, see what we can get done here. The Committee on Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions will come to order. We will debate any remaining amendments to the PRO Act and then move straight, well, not quite straight, into get votes as soon as we can. By my count, we can have up to 44 votes, and let's do our best to move through them as quickly as possible, because I know schedules are tight. All right. We last finished debate on Bud 11. Are there any more amendments to the PRO Act?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, I have one, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I'd like to offer Bud Amendment number 12 to Senate Bill 567. It would amend Section 106 to add a new section to provide for damages against unions for violations of unfair labor practices. I want to start by thanking Senator Budd for offering this amendment. It preserves the balance of the National Labor Relations Act, while the PRO Act ignores that unions commit unfair labor practices in the course of representative activities. This amendment places similar fines and penalties for union unfair labor practices as employers.
Okay. Thank you, Senator Marshall. I oppose Senator Budd's amendment. Unions don't fire workers, their employers do. If a union works with an employer to cause a worker to be illegally fired, current law already makes the union responsible for that violation. I urge my colleagues to vote no on this amendment at the appropriate time. Any more discussion? If not, additional amendments.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to offer Bud Amendment number 13 This would prohibit a union organizer from using threats or violence to intimidate a worker during a union organizing campaign. Again, we want to thank Senator Budd for this amendment. Tolerating violence and hate speech as just a part of union organizing is fundamentally wrong. When seated before the committee, 3 of the nation's largest union presidents refused to condemn malicious taunting from the union picket line. In 2021, a leader of the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 98, was indicted for threats of violence and economic harm after he threatened a worker at a Philadelphia construction site. This individual was convicted of bribery and extortion from a 116-count indictment. Since the board continues to undermine the safety of workers from union violence in a workplace and on the picket line, this amendment should be adopted.
Thank you, Senator Marshall. I oppose Senator Budd's amendment. No one here, of course, supports violence in the workplace or anyplace else, but that is not what this amendment is really about. This amendment is about making it harder for workers who are illegally fired to get reinstatement. It's about making it harder for unions to protect and fight for workers. This amendment is clearly designed to undermine the entire bill. I urge my colleagues to vote no on the amendment at the appropriate time.
Mr. Chairman, I need to make a little addendum here. I need to clarify that these remarks are on behalf of, should be associated with Senator Budd and not myself.
Got it. Thank you. Senator Marshall, do you have other amendments?
Let me see.
I think you have 2 more.
Okay. How about Budd Amendment 14? This one would permit an employer to pay greater wages or compensation that is provided for in the collective bargaining agreement. Again, thank Senator Budd for introducing this amendment and associate these remarks with him. In an economy where a lot of workers are sitting on the sidelines, this amendment could attract many of them back to work. The National Labor Relations Act prevents workers from receiving bonuses or merit pay increases without the blessing of a union leadership. To prevent an employee who's working hard from receiving a merit-based wage increase is simply unfair, and we ask for adoption of this amendment.
Thank you, Senator Marshall. I oppose Senator Budd's amendment. This amendment would undermine the rights of workers to collectively bargain for better wages, benefits, and working conditions. Let's be clear, union workers make on average nearly 20% more than non-union colleagues, and that's why we need the PRO Act, so more workers can get fair wages and benefits. This amendment is a poison pill clearly designed to undermine the entire bill. I urge my colleagues at the appropriate point to vote no on it.
Next, I'd like to offer Budd Amendment number 15. This requires the Department of Labor Secretary to certify that the PRO Act will not have an adverse effect on the employment rates of those with disabilities. Again, these are remarks associated from Senator Budd, and we thank you for offering this amendment. As the previous amendments highlight, we need to be aware of unintended consequences of the PRO Act. Workers with disabilities are an important and vital part of the workforce that must be protected. The PRO Act would eliminate state right-to-work laws, which have been shown to correlate with higher employment rates and labor force participation rates. Unfortunately, those with disabilities are often most severely impacted, with employers slow down hiring. Employers have stated that the PRO Act will destroy jobs. The PRO Act should not go in effect until the Secretary of Labor can certify that it will not have an adverse effect on the employment rates of those with disabilities. Again, we ask for adoption of this amendment.
Thank you, Senator Marshall. I oppose Senator Budd's amendment. This amendment would unnecessarily delay the implementation of this bill. Today, we are voting on a bill to protect workers' rights to organize, to make sure that workplaces are safe and fair for every worker, including workers with disabilities. This amendment is a poison pill that is designed to undermine the bill. I urge my colleagues at the appropriate time to vote no on this amendment. All right, I think that is, Senator Marshall, is that?
I want to ask unanimous consent for a couple, if that's okay?
Yes.
So on behalf of Senator Cassidy, ranking member, we would like to ask unanimous consent to enter into the record letters from 50 business groups. 46 oppose Senate Bill 728, the Paycheck Fairness Act. 46 oppose Senate Bill 1664, the Healthy Families Act. 50 oppose Senate Bill 567, the Richard L. Trumka Protecting the Rights to Organize Act of 2023.
Without objection. And I would ask unanimous consent to enter the record 14 letters of support for the 3 bills that we are discussing today. 78 organizations who endorsed the PRO Act, 151 organizations who endorsed the Healthy Families Act, and 109 organizations who endorsed the Paycheck Fairness Act. Without objection, so ordered. Okay, I think we can now get to We got something like 40 amendments, and I think we're ready to get going. You have proxy rights on your side. Let's get going. I note the presence of a quorum, and we'll now move to votes. We will take votes in the order that we considered the bills and their amendments. We will begin with amendments to S-728, the Paycheck Fairness Act. The first vote is on the Cassidy Amendment 1 to S-728. Clerk will call the roll. And Clerk, if we can move this thing as quickly as possible, we'd appreciate it.
Senator Murray?
No by proxy.
Senator Casey?
No.
Senator Baldwin?
No.
Senator Murphy? Senator Kane? Senator Hassan? Senator Smith? Senator Lujan? Senator Hickenlooper? Senator Markey? Senator Cassidy?
Aye.
Senator Paul?
No by proxy.
Senator Collins?
No by, excuse me, yes by proxy.
And Senator Collins?
Yes by proxy.
Senator Murkowski?
Yes by proxy.
Senator Braun?
Yes by proxy.
Senator Marshall?
Yes,
Senator Romney?
yes by proxy.
Senator Tuberville?
Yes by proxy.
Senator Mullen?
Yes by proxy.
Senator Budd?
Yes by proxy. And you have Paul as a no by proxy, correct?
Correct. Chairman Sanders?
No.
I have 9 ayes, 12 nays.
The noes have it, and the amendment is not agreed to. We'll now vote on Cassidy Amendment number 3. The clerk will call the roll.
Senator Murray?
No by proxy.
Senator Casey? No. Senator Baldwin? No. Senator Murphy? No. Senator Kane? No. Senator Hassan? No. Senator Smith? No. Senator Lujan? No. Senator Hickenlooper? No. Senator Markey? No. Senator Cassidy?
Yes.
Senator Paul?
Yes by proxy.
Senator Collins?
Yes by proxy.
Senator Murkowski?
No by proxy.
Senator Braun?
Yes by proxy.
Senator Marshall? Senator Romney?
Yes by proxy.
Senator Tuberville?
Yes by proxy.
Senator Mullen?
Yes by proxy.
Senator Budd?
Yes by proxy.
Chairman Sanders?
No.
I have 9 ayes, 12 nays.
The noes have it, and the amendment is not agreed to. We'll now vote on Cassidy Amendment number 4. The clerk will call the roll.
Senator Murray?
No by proxy.
Senator Casey? No. Senator Baldwin? No. Senator Murphy? No. Senator Kane? No. Senator Hassan? No. Senator Smith? No. Senator Lujan? No. Senator Hickenlooper? No. Senator Markey? No. Senator Cassidy?
Yes by, yes.
Senator Paul?
Yes by proxy.
Senator Collins?
No by proxy.
Senator Murkowski?
No by proxy.
Senator Braun?
Yes by proxy.
Senator Marshall? Senator Romney?
Yes by proxy.
Senator Tuberville?
Yes by proxy.
Senator Mullen?
Yes by proxy.
Senator Budd?
Yes by proxy.
Chairman Sanders?
No.
I have 8 ayes, 13 nays.
Okay. I think the noes have it. And the amendment is not agreed to. We're now moving to final passage. All right, Senator Murray will be here in 1 second. So why don't we begin, and we'll have Senator Murray vote when she comes. Is she, how far away is she? I now move to favorably report S 728. Clerk will call the roll.
Senator Murray,
She will hear, she passes.
Senator Casey, Senator Baldwin, Senator Murphy, Senator Kane, Senator Hassan, Senator Smith, Senator Lujan, Senator Hickenlooper, Senator Markey, Senator Cassidy,
No.
Senator Paul,
No by proxy.
Senator Collins,
No by proxy.
Senator Murkowski,
No by proxy.
Senator Braun,
No by proxy.
Senator Marshall, Senator Romney,
No by proxy.
Senator Tuberville,
No by proxy.
Senator Mullen,
No by proxy.
Senator Budd,
No by proxy.
Chairman Sanders.
Aye. We're waiting for Senator Murray. Well, did she know that?
Yes, we just told their staff is running.
Can we do?
Well, now that you've met, we could have done that, but now that you've held,
Just say aye.
Aye.
All right. Okay, we've got an aye vote here. Clerk will,
Yeah. Senator Murray,
Aye.
I have 11 ayes, 10 nays.
the ayes have it, and the bill is passed. All right, we will now turn to amendments to S 1664, the Healthy Families Act. First vote is on Cassidy Amendment Number 2. The clerk will call the roll.
Senator Murray,
No.
Senator Casey, Senator Baldwin, Senator Murphy, Senator Kane, Senator Hassan, Senator Smith, Senator Lujan, Senator Hickenlooper, Senator Markey, Senator Cassidy,
Yes.
Senator Paul,
Yes by proxy.
Senator Collins,
Yes by proxy.
Senator Murkowski,
Yes by proxy.
Senator Braun,
Yes by proxy.
Senator Marshall,
Yes by proxy.
Senator Romney,
Yes by proxy.
Senator Tuberville,
Yes by proxy.
Senator Mullen,
Yes by proxy.
Senator Budd,
Yes by proxy.
Chairman Sanders.
No.
I have 10 ayes, 11 nays.
The noes have it, and the amendment is not agreed to. We'll now vote on Cassidy Amendment 5. The clerk will call the roll.
Senator Murray? No. Senator Casey? No. Senator Baldwin? No. Senator Murphy? No. Senator Kane? No. Senator Hassan? No. Senator Smith? No. Senator Lujan? No. Senator Hickenlooper? No. Senator Markey? No. Senator Cassidy?
Yes.
Senator Paul?
Yes by proxy.
Senator Collins?
Yes by proxy.
Senator Murkowski?
Yes by proxy.
Senator Braun?
Yes by proxy.
Senator
Yes
Marshall?
by proxy.
Senator Romney?
Yes by proxy.
Senator Tuberville?
Yes by proxy.
Senator Mullen?
Yes by proxy.
Senator Budd?
Yes by proxy.
Chairman Sanders?
No.
I have 10 ayes, 11 nays.
The noes have it, and the amendment is not agreed to. We'll now vote on Cassidy Amendment Number 6. Clerk will call the roll.
Senator Murray? No. Senator Casey? No. Senator Baldwin? No. Senator Murphy? No. Senator Kane? No. Senator Hassan? No. Senator Smith? No. Senator Lujan? Senator Hickenlooper? Senator Markey? Senator Cassidy?
Yes.
Senator Paul?
Yes by proxy.
Senator
No
Collins?
by proxy.
Senator
No by
Murkowski?
proxy.
Senator Braun?
Yes by proxy.
Senator Marshall?
Yes by proxy.
Senator Romney?
Yes by proxy.
Senator
Yes by
Tuberville?
proxy.
Senator Mullen?
Yes by proxy.
Senator Budd?
Yes by proxy.
Chairman Sanders?
No.
I have 8 ayes, 13 nays.
The noes have it, and the amendment is not agreed to. Now we're dealing with final passage of S 1664, the Healthy Families Act. Clerk will call the roll.
Senator Murray? Senator Casey? Senator Baldwin? Senator Murphy? Senator Kane? Senator Hassan? Senator Smith? Senator Lujan? Senator Hickenlooper? Senator Markey? Senator Cassidy?
No.
Senator Paul?
No by proxy.
Senator Collins?
No by proxy.
Senator Murkowski? Senator Braun?
No by proxy.
Senator
No
Marshall?
by proxy.
Senator Romney?
No by proxy.
Senator
No
Tuberville?
by proxy.
Senator Mullen?
No by proxy.
Senator Budd?
No by proxy.
Chairman Sanders?
Aye.
I have 11 ayes, 10 nays.
The ayes have it. The bill is agreed to and will be favorably reported. We'll now move to votes on the amendments and final passage of the PRO Act. We will begin with a vote on Mullen Amendment number 1. The clerk will call the roll.
Senator Murray? Senator Casey? Senator Baldwin? Senator Murphy? Senator Kane?
No by proxy. Hold it. No by proxy, sir.
Senator Hassan? Senator Smith? Senator Lujan? Senator Hickenlooper? Senator Markey? Senator Cassidy?
Yes.
Senator Paul?
Yes by proxy.
Senator Collins?
No by proxy.
Senator Murkowski? Senator Braun?
Yes by proxy.
Senator Marshall?
Yes, no by proxy.
Senator Romney?
Yes by proxy.
Senator Tuberville?
Yes by proxy.
Senator Mullen?
Yes by proxy.
Senator Budd?
Yes by proxy.
Chairman Sanders?
No.
I have 8 ayes, 13 nays.
The noes have it, and the amendment is not agreed to. We'll now vote on Senator Paul's amendment number 1. Clerk will call the roll.
Senator Murray?
No.
Senator Casey? Senator Baldwin? Senator Murphy? Senator Kane?
No by proxy.
Senator Hassan? Senator Smith? Senator Lujan? Senator Hickenlooper? Senator Markey? Senator Cassidy?
Yes.
Senator Paul?
Yes by proxy.
Senator Collins?
No by proxy.
Senator Murkowski? Senator Braun?
Yes by proxy.
Senator Marshall?
Yes by proxy.
Senator
Yes
Romney?
by proxy.
Senator
Yes by
Tuberville?
proxy.
Senator Mullen?
Yes by proxy.
Senator Budd?
Yes by proxy.
Chairman Sanders?
No.
I have 9 ayes, 12 nays.
The noes have it, and the amendment is not agreed to. We will now vote on Mullen Amendment number 2. The clerk will call the roll.
Senator Murray? Senator Casey? Senator Baldwin? Senator Murphy? Senator Kane?
No by proxy, sorry.
Senator Hassan? Senator Smith? Senator Lujan? Senator Hickenlooper? Senator Markey? Senator Cassidy?
Yes.
Senator Paul?
Yes by proxy.
Senator Collins?
Yes by proxy.
Senator Murkowski? Senator Braun?
Yes by proxy.
Senator
Yes
Marshall?
by proxy.
Senator Romney?
Yes by proxy.
Senator Tuberville?
I'm sorry, excuse me, Marshall's no by proxy. Romney's yes by proxy.
Senator Tuberville?
Yes by proxy.
Senator Mullen?
Yes by proxy.
Senator Budd?
Yes by proxy.
Chairman Sanders?
No.
I have 9 ayes, 12 nays.
The noes have it, and the amendment is not agreed to. We'll now vote on Mullen Amendment number 3. Clerk will call the roll.
Senator Murray?
No.
Senator Casey? No. Senator Baldwin? No. Senator Murphy? Senator Kane?
No by proxy.
Senator Hassan? No. Senator Smith? Senator Lujan? Senator Hickenlooper? No. Senator Markey? No. Senator Cassidy?
Yes.
Senator Paul?
Yes by proxy.
Senator Collins?
Yes by proxy.
Senator Murkowski? Senator Braun?
Yes by proxy.
Senator Marshall?
No by proxy.
Senator Romney?
Yes by proxy.
Senator Tuberville?
Yes by proxy.
Senator Mullen?
Yes by proxy.
Senator Budd?
Yes by proxy.
Chairman Sanders?
Nope.
I have 9 ayes, 12 nays.
The noes have it, and the amendment is not agreed to. We'll now vote on Braun Amendment number 1. Clerk will call the roll.
Senator Murray?
No.
Senator Casey? Senator Baldwin? Senator Murphy? Senator Kane?
No by proxy.
Senator Hassan? Senator Smith? Senator Lujan? Senator Hickenlooper? Senator Markey? Senator Cassidy?
This is a yes.
Senator Paul?
Yes by proxy.
Senator Collins?
Yes by proxy.
Senator Murkowski? Senator Braun?
Yes by proxy.
Senator Marshall?
Yes by proxy.
Senator Romney?
Yes by proxy.
Senator Tuberville?
Yes by proxy.
Senator Mullen?
Yes by proxy.
Senator Budd?
Yes by proxy.
Chairman Sanders?
Nope.
I have 10 ayes, 11 nays.
The noes have it, and the amendment is not agreed to. We'll now vote on Senator Braun's Amendment 2. Clerk will call the roll.
Senator Murray? Senator Casey? Senator Baldwin? Senator Murphy? Senator Kane?
No by proxy.
Senator Hassan? Senator Smith? Senator Lujan? Senator Hickenlooper? Senator Markey? Senator Cassidy?
This would be a yes.
Senator Paul?
Yes by proxy.
Senator Collins?
Yes by proxy.
Senator Murkowski? Senator Braun?
Yes by proxy.
Senator Marshall?
Yes by proxy.
Senator Romney?
Yes by proxy.
Senator Tuberville?
Yes by proxy.
Senator Mullen?
Yes by proxy.
Senator
Yes
Budd?
by proxy.
Chairman Sanders?
No.
I have 9 ayes, 12 nays.
The noes have it, and the amendment is not agreed to. We will now vote on Senator Braun's Amendment number 3. Clerk will call the roll.
Senator Murray? Senator Casey? Senator Baldwin? Senator Murphy? Senator Kane?
No by proxy.
Senator Hassan? Senator Smith? Senator Lujan? Senator Hickenlooper? Senator Markey? Senator Cassidy?
Yes.
Senator Paul?
No by proxy.
Senator Collins?
Yes by proxy.
Senator Murkowski? Senator Braun?
Yes by proxy.
Senator Marshall?
No by proxy.
Senator Romney?
Yes by proxy.
Senator
Yes
Tuberville?
by proxy.
Senator Mullen?
Yes by proxy.
Senator Budd?
Yes by proxy.
Chairman Sanders?
No.
I have 8 ayes, 13 nays.
The noes have it, and the amendment is not agreed to. We will now vote on Senator Marshall's Amendment number 1. Clerk will call the roll.
Senator Murray? Senator Casey? Senator Baldwin? Senator Murphy? Senator Kane?
No by proxy.
Senator Hassan? Senator Smith? Senator Lujan? Senator Hickenlooper? Senator Markey? Senator Cassidy?
Yes.
Senator Paul?
Yes by proxy.
Senator Collins?
Yes by proxy.
Senator Murkowski? Senator Braun?
Yes by proxy.
Senator Marshall?
Yes, by proxy.
Senator Romney?
Yes, by proxy.
Senator Tuberville?
Yes, by proxy.
Senator Mullen?
Yes, by proxy.
Senator Budd?
Yes, by proxy.
Chairman Sanders?
Nope.
I have 10 ayes, 11 nays.
The noes have it, and the amendment is not agreed to. I will now go to Senator Cassidy's amendment number 1. Clerk will call the roll.
Senator Murray? Senator Casey? Senator Baldwin? Senator Murphy? Senator Kane?
No by proxy.
Senator Hassan? Senator Smith? Senator Lujan? Senator Hickenlooper? Senator Markey? Senator Cassidy?
Yes.
Senator Paul?
Yes, by proxy.
Senator Collins?
Yes, by proxy.
Senator Murkowski? Senator Braun?
Yes, by proxy.
Senator Marshall?
Yes, by proxy.
Senator Romney?
Yes, by proxy.
Senator
Yes, by
Tuberville?
proxy.
Senator
Yes,
Mullen?
by proxy.
Senator Budd?
Yes, by proxy.
Chairman Sanders?
Nope.
I have 10 ayes, 11 nays.
The noes have it, and the amendment is not agreed to. I will now vote on Senator Cassidy's amendment number 2. Clerk will call the roll.
Senator Murray? Senator Casey? Senator Baldwin? Senator Murphy? Senator Kane?
No by proxy.
Senator Hassan? Senator Smith? Senator Lujan? Senator Hickenlooper? Senator Markey? Senator Cassidy?
Yes.
Senator Paul?
Yes, by proxy.
Senator Collins?
Yes, by proxy.
Senator Murkowski? Senator Braun?
Yes, by proxy.
Senator Marshall?
No, by proxy.
Senator Romney?
Yes, by proxy.
Senator
Yes, by
Tuberville?
proxy.
Senator Mullen?
Yes, by proxy.
Senator
Yes,
Budd?
by proxy.
Chairman Sanders?
Nope.
I have 9 ayes, 12 nays.
Noes have it, and the amendment is not agreed to. We will now vote on Senator Cassidy's amendment number 3. Clerk will call the roll.
Senator Murray? No. Senator Casey? No. Senator Baldwin? No. Senator Murphy? Senator Kane?
No by proxy.
Senator Hassan? No. Senator Smith? No. Senator Lujan? Senator Hickenlooper? Senator Markey? No. Senator Cassidy?
Yes.
Senator Paul?
Yes, by proxy.
Senator Collins?
No, by proxy.
Senator Murkowski? No. Senator Braun?
Yes, by proxy.
Senator Markey?
Yes, by proxy.
Senator Romney?
Yes, by proxy.
Senator Tuberville?
Yes, by proxy.
Senator Mullen?
Yes, by proxy.
Senator Budd?
Yes, by proxy.
Chairman Sanders?
No.
I have 8 ayes, 13 nays.
The noes have it, and the amendment is not agreed to. I will now vote on Senator Cassidy's amendment number 4. Clerk will call the roll.
Senator Murray? No. Senator Casey? No. Senator Baldwin? No. Senator Murphy? No. Senator Kane?
No by proxy.
Senator Hassan? No. Senator Smith? No. Senator Lujan? No. Senator Hickenlooper? Senator Markey? No. Senator Cassidy?
Yes.
Senator Paul?
Yes, by proxy.
Senator Collins?
Yes, by proxy.
Senator Murkowski? Senator Braun?
Yes, by proxy.
Senator Marshall?
Yes, by proxy.
Senator Romney?
Yes, by proxy.
Senator
Yes,
Tuberville?
by proxy.
Senator Mullen?
Yes, by proxy.
Senator
Yes,
Budd?
by proxy.
Chairman Sanders?
Nope.
I have 9 ayes, 12 nays.
The noes have it, and the amendment is not agreed to. We'll now go to Senator Cassidy's amendment number 5. Clerk will call the roll.
Senator Murray? No. Senator Casey? No. Senator Baldwin? No. Senator Murphy? No. Senator Kane?
No by proxy.
Senator Hassan? No. Senator Smith? No. Senator Lujan? No. Senator Hickenlooper? No. Senator Markey? Senator Cassidy?
Yes.
Senator Paul?
Yes, by proxy.
Senator Collins?
Yes, by proxy.
Senator Murkowski? Senator Braun?
Yes, by proxy.
Senator Markey?
Yes, by proxy.
Senator Romney?
Yes, by proxy.
Senator
Yes,
Tuberville?
by proxy.
Senator Mullen?
Yes, by proxy.
Senator
Yes,
Budd?
by proxy.
Chairman Sanders?
Nope.
I have 10 ayes, 11 nays.
The noes have it, and the amendment is not agreed to. I will now vote on Senator Cassidy's amendment number 6. Clerk will call the roll.
Senator Murray? No. Senator Casey? No. Senator Baldwin? No. Senator Murphy? Senator Kane?
No by proxy.
Senator Hassan? No. Senator Smith? No. Senator Lujan? Senator Hickenlooper? No. Senator Markey? No. Senator Cassidy?
Yes.
Senator Paul?
Yes, by proxy.
Senator Collins?
No by proxy.
Senator Murkowski? Senator Braun?
Yes, by proxy.
Senator Marshall?
Yes, by proxy.
Senator Romney?
Yes, by proxy.
Senator
Yes, by
Timberwolf?
proxy.
Senator Mullen?
Yes, by proxy.
Senator
Yes,
Burke?
by proxy.
Chairman Sanders?
Nope.
I have 9 ayes, 12 nays.
The noes have it, and the amendment is not agreed to. We'll now vote on Senator Cassidy's amendment number 7. Clerk will call the roll.
Senator Murray? No. Senator Casey? No. Senator Baldwin? No. Senator Murphy? No. Senator Kane?
No by proxy.
Senator Hassan? No. Senator Smith? No. Senator Lujan? No. Senator Hickenlooper? Senator Markey? No. Senator Cassidy?
Yes.
Senator Paul?
Yes, by proxy.
Senator Collins?
Yes, by proxy.
Senator Murkowski? Senator Braun?
Yes, by proxy.
Senator Marshall?
Yes, by proxy.
Senator Romney?
Yes, by proxy.
Senator
Yes,
Tocqueville?
by proxy.
Senator Mullen?
Yes, by proxy.
Senator Budd?
Yes, by proxy.
Chairman Sanders?
No.
I have 10 ayes, 11 nays.
The noes have it, and the amendment is not agreed to. We'll now vote on Senator Cassidy's amendment number 8. Clerk will call the roll.
Senator Murray? No. Senator Casey? No. Senator Baldwin? No. Senator Murphy? No. Senator Kane?
No by proxy.
Senator Hassan? No. Senator Smith? No. Senator Lujan?
No by proxy.
Senator Hickenlooper? Senator Markey? No. Senator Cassidy?
Yes.
Senator Paul?
Yes, by proxy.
Senator Collins?
Yes, by proxy.
Senator Murkowski? Senator Braun?
Yes, by proxy.
Senator Marshall?
Yes, by proxy.
Senator Romney?
Yes, by proxy.
Senator
Yes, by
Tocqueville?
proxy.
Senator Mullen?
Yes, by proxy.
Senator Budd?
Yes, by proxy.
Chairman Sanders?
No.
I have 10 ayes, 11 nays.
The noes have it, and the amendment is not agreed to. We'll now vote on Senator Cassidy's amendment number 9. Clerk will call the roll.
Senator Murray? No. Senator Casey? No. Senator Baldwin? No. Senator Murphy? No. Senator Kane?
No by proxy.
Senator Hassan? No. Senator Smith? No. Senator Lujan?
No by proxy.
Senator Hickenlooper? Senator Markey? Senator Cassidy?
Aye.
Senator Paul?
Yes, by proxy.
Senator Collins?
Yes, by proxy.
Senator Murkowski? Senator Braun?
Yes, by proxy.
Senator Marshall?
No, by proxy.
Senator Romney?
Yes, by proxy.
Senator Tocqueville?
Yes, by proxy.
Senator Mullen?
Yes, by proxy.
Senator Budd?
Yes, by proxy.
Chairman Sanders?
Nope.
I have 8 ayes, 13 nays.
Noes have it, and the amendment is not agreed to. We'll now vote on Senator Cassidy's amendment number 10. Clerk will call the roll.
Senator Murray? No. Senator Casey? No. Senator Baldwin? No. Senator Murphy? No. Senator Kane?
No by proxy, sorry.
Senator Hassan? Senator Smith? Senator Lujan?
No by proxy.
Senator Hickenlooper? Senator Markey? No. Senator Cassidy?
Yes.
Senator Paul?
Yes, by proxy.
Senator Collins?
No, by proxy.
Senator Murkowski? Senator Braun?
Yes, by proxy.
Senator Marshall?
Continue.
Senator Romney,
Yes by proxy.
Senator Tuberville,
Yes by proxy.
Senator Mullen,
Yes by proxy.
Senator Budd,
Yes by proxy.
Chairman Sanders,
Nope.
no vote for Marshall.
No vote for Marshall.
I have 7 ayes, 13 nays.
The noes have it, and the amendment is not agreed to. We'll now vote on Senator Cassidy's amendment number 11. Clerk will call the roll.
Senator Murray? Senator Casey? Senator Baldwin? Senator Murphy? Senator Kane?
No by proxy.
Senator Hassan? Senator Smith? Senator Lujan?
No by proxy.
Senator Hickenlooper? Senator Markey? Senator Cassidy?
Aye.
Senator Paul?
Aye by proxy.
Senator Collins?
Aye by proxy.
Senator Murkowski? Senator Braun?
Aye by proxy.
Senator Marshall?
Aye by proxy.
Senator
Aye by proxy.
Senator
Aye by
Tuberville?
proxy.
Senator
Aye
Mullen?
by proxy.
Senator
Aye
Budd?
by proxy.
Chairman Sanders?
Nope.
I have 10 ayes, 11 nays.
The noes have it, and the amendment is not agreed to. We'll now vote on Senator Romney's amendment number 1. Clerk will call the roll.
Senator Murray? Senator Casey? Senator Baldwin? Senator Murphy? Senator Kane?
No by proxy.
Senator Hassan? Senator Smith? Senator Lujan?
No by proxy.
Senator Hickenlooper? Senator Markey? Senator Cassidy?
Aye.
Senator Paul?
Aye by proxy.
Senator Collins?
Aye by proxy.
Senator Murkowski? Senator Braun?
Aye by proxy.
Senator Marshall?
No by proxy.
Senator
Aye
Romney?
by proxy.
Senator
Aye by proxy.
Senator
Aye
Mullen?
by proxy.
Senator Budd?
Aye by proxy.
Chairman Sanders?
Nope.
I have 9 ayes, 12 nays.
The noes have it, and the amendment is not agreed to. We'll now vote on Senator Tuberville's amendment number 1. The clerk will call the roll.
Senator Murray? Senator Casey? Senator Baldwin? Senator Murphy? Senator Kane?
No by proxy.
Senator Hassan? Senator Smith? Senator Lujan?
No by proxy.
Senator Hickenlooper? Senator Markey? Senator Cassidy?
Aye.
Senator Paul?
Aye by proxy.
Senator Collins?
Aye by proxy.
Senator Murkowski? Senator Braun?
Aye by proxy.
Senator Marshall?
Aye by proxy.
Senator
Aye
Romney?
by proxy.
Senator
Aye by
Tuberville?
proxy.
Senator
Aye
Mullen?
by proxy.
Senator
Aye
Budd?
by proxy.
Chairman Sanders?
Nope.
I have 9 ayes, 12 nays.
The noes have it, and the amendment is not agreed to. I will now vote on Senator Mullen's amendment number 5. The clerk will call the roll.
Senator Murray? Senator Casey? Senator Baldwin? Senator Murphy? Senator Kane?
No by proxy.
Senator Hassan? Senator Smith? Senator Lujan?
No by proxy.
Senator Hickenlooper? Senator Markey? Senator Cassidy?
Aye.
Senator Paul?
Aye by proxy.
Senator Collins?
Aye by proxy.
Senator Murkowski? Senator Braun?
Aye by proxy.
Senator Marshall?
Aye by proxy.
Senator
Aye
Romney?
by proxy.
Senator
Aye by
Tuberville?
proxy.
Senator
Aye
Mullen?
by proxy.
Senator
Aye
Budd?
by proxy.
Chairman Sanders?
Nope.
I have 10 ayes, 11 nays.
The noes have it, and the amendment is not agreed to. We'll now vote on Senator Budd's amendment number 1. The clerk will call the roll.
Senator Murray? Senator Casey? Senator Baldwin? Senator Murphy? Senator Kane?
No by proxy.
Senator Hassan? Senator Smith? Senator Lujan?
No by proxy.
Senator Hickenlooper? Senator Markey? Senator Cassidy?
Aye.
Senator Paul?
Aye by proxy.
Senator Collins?
Aye by proxy.
Senator Murkowski? Is that a no? Senator Braun?
Aye by proxy.
Senator Marshall.
Aye by proxy.
Senator
Aye
Romney.
by proxy.
Senator Tuberville.
Aye by proxy.
Senator
Aye
Mullen.
by proxy.
Senator
Aye
Budd.
by proxy.
Chairman Sanders.
Nope.
I have 9 ayes, 12 nays.
The noes have it, and the amendment is not agreed to. We'll now go to Senator Budd's amendment number 2. The clerk will call the roll.
Senator Murray. No. Senator Casey. No. Senator Baldwin. No. Senator Murphy. No. Senator Kane.
No by proxy.
Senator Hassan. No. Senator Smith. No. Senator Lujan.
No by proxy.
Senator Hickenlooper. No. Senator Markey. No. Senator Cassidy.
Aye.
Senator Paul.
Aye by proxy.
Senator Collins.
Aye by proxy.
Senator Murkowski. Senator Braun.
Aye by proxy.
Senator
Aye
Marshall.
by proxy.
Senator
Aye
Romney.
by proxy.
Senator
Aye by
Tuberville.
proxy.
Senator Mullen.
Aye by proxy.
Senator
Aye
Budd.
by proxy.
Chairman Sanders.
Nope.
I have 9 ayes, 12 nays.
The noes have it, and the amendment is not agreed to. We'll now vote on Senator Budd's amendment number 3. The clerk will call the roll.
Senator Murray. No. Senator Casey. No. Senator Baldwin. No. Senator Murphy. No. Senator Kane.
No by proxy.
Senator Hassan. No. Senator Smith. No. Senator Lujan.
No by proxy.
Senator Hickenlooper. Senator Markey. No. Senator Cassidy.
Aye.
Senator Paul.
Aye by proxy.
Senator Collins.
Aye by proxy.
Senator Murkowski. Senator Braun.
Aye by proxy.
Senator
Aye
Marshall.
by proxy.
Senator
Aye
Romney.
by proxy.
Senator
Aye by
Tuberville.
proxy.
Senator
Aye
Mullen.
by proxy.
Senator
Aye
Budd.
by proxy.
Chairman Sanders.
Nope.
I have 9 ayes, 12 nays.
The noes have it, and the amendment is not agreed to. I will now vote on Senator Budd's amendment number 4. The clerk will call the roll.
Senator Murray. No. Senator Casey. No. Senator Baldwin. No. Senator Murphy. No. Senator Kane.
No by proxy.
Senator Hassan. No. Senator Smith. No. Senator Lujan.
No by proxy.
Senator Hickenlooper. Senator Markey. No. Senator Cassidy.
Aye.
Senator Paul.
Aye by proxy.
Senator Collins.
Aye by proxy.
Senator Murkowski. Senator
Aye
Braun.
by proxy.
Senator
Aye
Marshall.
by proxy.
Senator
Aye
Romney.
by proxy.
Senator
Aye by
Tuberville.
proxy.
Senator
Aye
Mullen.
by proxy.
Senator Budd.
Aye by proxy.
Chairman Sanders.
Nope.
I have 10 ayes, 11 nays.
The noes have it, and the amendment is not agreed to. We'll now vote on Senator Budd's amendment number 5. Clerk will call the roll.
Senator Murray. No. Senator Casey. No. Senator Baldwin. No. Senator Murphy. No. Senator Kane.
No by proxy.
Senator Hassan. No. Senator Smith. No. Senator Lujan.
No by proxy.
Senator Hickenlooper. No. Senator Markey. Senator Cassidy.
Aye.
Senator Paul.
Aye by proxy.
Senator Collins.
Aye by proxy.
Senator Murkowski. Senator Braun.
Aye by proxy.
Senator Marshall.
Aye by proxy.
Senator
Aye
Romney.
by proxy.
Senator
Aye by
Tuberville.
proxy.
Senator Mullen.
Aye by proxy.
Senator Budd.
Aye by proxy.
Chairman Sanders.
Nope.
I have 10 ayes, 11 nays.
The noes have it, and the amendment is not agreed to. We'll now vote on Senator Budd's amendment number 6. The clerk will call the roll.
Senator Murray. No. Senator Casey. No. Senator Baldwin. No. Senator Murphy. No. Senator Kane.
No by proxy.
Senator Hassan. No. Senator Smith. No. Senator Lujan.
No by proxy.
Senator Hickenlooper. Senator Markey. Senator Cassidy.
Aye.
Senator Paul.
Aye by proxy.
Senator Collins.
Aye by proxy.
Senator Murkowski. Senator Braun.
Aye by proxy.
Senator Marshall.
Aye by proxy.
Senator Romney.
Aye by proxy.
Senator
Aye
Tuberville.
by proxy.
Senator Mullen.
Aye by proxy.
Senator Budd.
Aye by proxy.
Chairman Sanders.
Nope.
I have 10 ayes, 11 nays.
The noes have it, and the amendment is not agreed to. We'll now vote on Senator Budd's amendment number 7. The clerk will call the roll.
Senator Murray. No. Senator Casey. No. Senator Baldwin. No. Senator Murphy.
No by proxy.
Senator Kane,
No by proxy.
Senator Hassan? No. Senator Smith? No. Senator Lujan? No. Senator Hickenlooper? No. Senator Markey? No. Senator Cassidy?
Aye.
Senator Paul?
Aye by proxy.
Senator Collins?
No by proxy.
Senator Murkowski? Senator Braun?
Aye by proxy.
Senator Marshall?
Aye by proxy.
Senator Romney?
Aye by proxy.
Senator
Aye by
Tuberville?
proxy.
Senator Mullen?
Aye by proxy.
Senator Budd?
Aye by proxy.
Chairman Sanders?
No. Senator Murphy, did you want to?
I have 9 ayes, 12 nays.
The noes have it, and the amendment is not agreed to. We'll now vote on Senator Budd's amendment number 10. The clerk will call the roll.
Senator Murray? No. Senator Casey? No. Senator Boldman? No. Senator Murphy? No. Senator Kane?
No by proxy.
Senator Hassan? No. Senator Smith? No. Senator Lujan? Senator Hickenlooper? No. Senator Markey? No. Senator Cassidy?
Aye.
Senator Paul?
Aye by proxy.
Senator Collins?
Aye by proxy.
Senator Murkowski? No. Senator Braun?
Aye by proxy.
Senator Marshall?
Aye by proxy.
Senator Romney?
Aye by proxy.
Senator
Aye by
Tuberville?
proxy.
Senator
Aye by
Mullen?
proxy.
Senator
Aye
Budd?
by proxy.
Chairman Sanders?
Nope.
I have 9 ayes, 12 nays.
The noes have it, and the amendment is not agreed to. We'll now vote on Senator Budd's amendment number 11. Clerk will call the roll.
Senator Murray? No. Senator Casey? No. Senator Baldwin? No. Senator Murphy? Senator Kane?
No by proxy.
Senator Hassan? No. Senator Smith? No. Senator Lujan? No. Senator Hickenlooper? Senator Markey? No. Senator Cassidy?
Aye.
Senator Paul?
Aye by proxy.
Senator Collins?
Is not voting.
Senator Murkowski? No. Senator Braun?
Yes by proxy.
Senator Marshall?
No by proxy.
Senator Romney?
Yes by proxy.
Senator Tuberville?
Yes by proxy.
Senator Mullen?
Yes by proxy.
Senator Budd?
Yes by proxy.
Chairman Sanders?
Nope.
I have 7 ayes, 13 nays.
The noes have it, and the amendment is not agreed to. We'll now vote on Senator Budd's amendment number 12. Clerk will call the roll.
Senator Murray? No. Senator Casey? No. Senator Baldwin? No. Senator Murphy? No. Senator Kane?
No by proxy.
Senator Hassan? No. Senator Smith? No. Senator Lujan? Senator Hickenlooper? No. Senator Markey? No. Senator Cassidy?
Aye.
Senator Paul?
Aye by proxy.
Senator Collins?
She is not voting on this.
Senator Murkowski? Senator Braun?
Aye by proxy.
Senator Marshall?
Aye by proxy.
Senator Romney?
Aye by proxy.
Senator
Aye
Tuberville?
by proxy.
Senator Mullen?
Aye by proxy.
Senator
Aye
Budd?
by proxy.
Chairman Sanders?
No.
I have 9 ayes, 11 nays.
The noes have it, and the amendment is not agreed to. We'll now be voting on Senator Budd's amendment number 13. The clerk will call the roll.
Senator Murray? No. Senator Casey? No. Senator Baldwin? No. Senator Murphy? No. Senator Kane?
No by proxy.
Senator Hassan? No. Senator Smith? No. Senator Lujan? No. Senator Hickenlooper? No. Senator Markey? No. Senator Cassidy?
Aye.
Senator Paul?
Aye by proxy.
Senator Collins?
Aye by proxy.
Senator Murkowski? Senator Braun?
Aye by proxy.
Senator Marshall?
No by proxy.
Senator Romney?
Yes by proxy.
Senator Tuberville?
Yes by proxy.
Senator Mullen?
Yes by proxy.
Senator Budd?
Yes by proxy.
Chairman Sanders?
Nope.
I have 9 ayes, 12 nays.
The noes have it, and the amendment is not agreed to. We're now going to vote on Senator Budd's amendment number 14. The clerk will call the roll.
Senator Murray? No. Senator Casey? Senator Baldwin? No. Senator Murphy? No. Senator Kane?
No by proxy.
Senator Hassan. Senator Smith. Senator Lujan. Senator Hickenlooper. Senator Markey. Senator Cassidy.
Aye.
Senator Paul.
Aye by proxy.
Senator Collins. Senator Murkowski. Senator Braun.
Aye by proxy.
Senator Marshall.
Aye by proxy.
Senator Romney.
Aye by proxy.
Senator Trumbull.
Aye by proxy.
Senator Mullen.
Aye by proxy.
Senator Budd.
Aye by proxy.
Chairman Sanders.
Nope.
I have 8 ayes, 13 nays.
The noes have it, and the amendment is not agreed to. We will now be voting on what I believe is the last amendment, and that is Budd Amendment number 15. The clerk will call the roll.
Senator Murray. Senator Casey. Senator Baldwin. Senator Murphy. Senator Kane.
No by proxy.
Senator Hassan. Senator Smith. Senator Lujan. Senator Hickenlooper. Senator Markey. Senator Cassidy.
Aye.
Senator Paul.
Aye by proxy.
Senator Collins. Senator Murkowski. Senator Braun.
Aye by proxy.
Senator Marshall.
Aye by proxy.
Senator
Aye
Romney.
by proxy.
Senator
Aye by
Trumbull.
proxy.
Senator
Aye
Mullen.
by proxy.
Senator
Aye
Budd.
by proxy.
Chairman Sanders.
No.
I have 9 ayes, 12 nays.
The noes have it, and the amendment is not agreed to. All right, we are now, yes, Senator Murkowski. Your mic is on, yeah.
May I ask how I am recorded on Budd Amendment 9?
We did not vote on that.
Is that the one we skipped?
We didn't vote on Bud 9.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You voted the same way everybody else did. Okay. It has been a long day, and I want to thank everybody for their cooperation. We are now at final passage of S 567. I move to favorably report S 567. The clerk will call the roll.
Senator Murray. Aye. Senator Casey. Aye. Senator Baldwin. Aye. Senator Murphy. Aye. Senator Kane.
He will be coming. He's not here right now.
Senator Hassan. Aye. Senator Smith. Aye. Senator Lujan. Aye. Senator Hickenlooper. Aye. Senator Markey. Aye. Senator Cassidy.
Aye. Excuse me, no, I'm sorry. No.
Done the right thing here.
Senator Paul.
No by proxy.
Senator Collins. No. Senator Murkowski. Senator Braun.
No by proxy.
Senator
No
Marshall.
by proxy.
Senator Romney.
No by proxy.
Senator
No by
Trumbull.
proxy.
Senator Mullen.
No by proxy.
Senator
No by
Budd.
proxy.
Chairman Sanders.
Yes. Okay, we are waiting for Senator Kane, who's on his way. Why does everybody have to stay? You need a quorum of everybody. What a way to run it up. Tell people they have to stay. Okay. Where's Kane? What a way to run a railroad.
Well, it's an inefficient system.
All right. All right, Senator Kane votes yes. What do you got?
I have 11 ayes, 10 nays.
The ayes have it, the bill is agreed to and will be favorably reported. Let me thank everybody for their indulgence today. Thank you all. The meeting is over.